Chapter 276. With the plan in place, Senisto would be in charge of the recruitment. Once the staff was recruited, he would go to Earth to get a stamp from Thea. They would be official workers. What would happen if they weren't stamped? The ring that Thea blew up was one of the possible outcomes for temporary workers. What if he couldn't find Thea when he arrived on Earth? Just wait. Would Moira be scared of all kinds of strange aliens coming to Star City every day? The answer was yes. Without a doubt, the location would be in Seaside City. Presumably, the residents of Seaside City wouldn't mind setting up an office of the Yellow Lantern Corps next to the Green Lantern Corps office on Earth. The huge Green Lantern Corps could also help the weak Yellow Lantern Corps. The two corps might even defend the peace of the universe together in the future. In short, Thea and Senisto's first cooperation wasn't a pleasant one. However, both of them restrained themselves and didn't fight, which disappointed the sinister little blue men who were prepared to watch a good show. Senisto made an excuse that he was severely mentally injured and flew away. He didn't mention anything about the parallax demon. Anyway, Thea would be there to deal with it. It would be better if he died. Thea couldn't be as detached as him. Although there were many hidden strong people on Earth, she was still a little worried. The little blue men seemed to kindly remind her that with the speed of the parallax demon, it would arrive on Earth in 10 minutes. Why don't you hurry over? Faced with the little blue men's attitude, Thea was a little depressed. No wonder Senisto wanted to rebel and Hal wanted to kill them all. These guys really didn't leave a good impression on her. She had helped them so much to prevent the division of the Green Lantern Corps, but there were no rewards or benefits. They didn't even say a word of thanks. These bastards. Thea wasn't someone to be trifled with either. Ever since she met Batman, she hadn't learned much about martial arts or science, but her skin had thickened considerably. She pretended not to see the other party's intention to chase her away and continued to talk to them. Respected Guardians, the humans on Earth are few and weak. I'm afraid we won't be able to fight against the parallax demons. We will continue to seek the Green Lantern Corps assistance. Thea's words were sincere, and her voice was gentle and moving, making her listeners cry. She automatically ignored Superman, Diana, and other powerful people. In her description, the people on Earth were all children with cerebral palsy, and their strength was so weak that it made people's hair stand on end. If you don't send troops, we'll be dead. However, the Guardians had lived for hundreds of millions of years. Weren't they just shameless? Who didn't know how to do that? Several of the Guardians took turns telling Thea about the difficulties of the Green Lantern Corps. They talked about how large the area they governed was, how the quality of the members was uneven, and how many of them had died in battle. They made it sound as if 100 Green Lanterns were dying every second. Thea was completely defeated by their shamelessness. She was so embarrassed that she couldn't say anything. How about this? This is a war between the Yellow Lantern Corps and the Parallax Demons. It's not appropriate for us to participate too much. However, Hal Jordan is a great Green Lantern warrior. He can represent us in the war to protect Earth. Shay almost spat in his face. What great Green Lantern warrior? Are you talking about Hal Jordan? With just a few words from you, Hal Jordan was upgraded to a great Green Lantern warrior. This great Green Lantern warrior was too worthless. Besides, Hal Jordan had already flown to Earth. Whether you approve or not is meaningless. Thea finally experienced the highest level of shamelessness. She was deeply impressed. She could only speechlessly say goodbye to the Guardians. Wearing the Yellow Lantern ring felt completely different from wearing the previous temporary Green Lantern ring. Although more than half of its functions were missing, the power of the first ring was far greater than the subsequent rings, not to mention the temporary Yellow Lantern ring that was just a replica. A lot of knowledge about space flashed through her mind. The teleportation of the Yellow Lantern ring was different from magical teleportation. Its theory was completely on the physical level. It was very similar to the theory of the Einstein-Rosen bridge on Earth. It used the gravitational field equation to connect 2 points to create a wormhole. What a magical theory! Thea waved at the Guardians and stepped forward into the wormhole. They passed by 15 planets in a row. Some of them were desolate, and some of them were filled with all kinds of strange creatures. Some of them were worshipping Sia, who had appeared out of thin air, and many of them were attacking her with all kinds of weapons. Thea didn't waste any time and continued to teleport. It took her a lot of effort to master how to use the wormhole. When Thea returned to Seaside City, it was less than 10 minutes before the parallax demons arrived. With the eye of Horus, she saw Green Lantern Hal Jordan evacuating the crowd. Beside him should be his girlfriend, Carol Ferris. The two of them were constantly persuading the nearby residents to evacuate. Unfortunately, most of the residents sneered at him when he said that there would be a big monster descending from the sky in 10 minutes. This guy is really inexperienced. How many people can you persuade with such empty words? A city with a population of 7 million. It would take at least 3 to 5 years to persuade them one by one. Thea took out her phone and dialed the emergency number of the Heaven's Eye Society. "What's the matter?" Amanda's voice came from the phone. Thea was a little relieved. This black-hearted, iron-blooded woman was very reliable in this emergency. "Listen to me, Amanda. I don't have much time. I'm only going to say this once. A scary monster is flying from the outer sky to Seaside City. Do you still remember the toad that knocked you out? It was attracted by him. I need you to immediately evacuate the residents of Seaside City. Time is tight, so I'm counting on you." Thea hung up the phone after she finished speaking. She still had to call another person. "Uncle Bruce, listen to me." Thea repeated the long story again. In the end, she got to her real purpose. "The last time we fought the big zombie, can you still contact your friend in the blue shirt and red cape? Seaside City needs him. Of course, you'd better come." Although Bruce Wayne felt that it was a little ridiculous, his strong mental fortitude allowed him to make a calm judgment. He believed Thea's words and said that the person he contacted would arrive soon. He was also rushing to Seaside City. Without seeing the parallax demon, there was no way to refer to the plot of the movie. With the help of the two cheats, Superman and Batman, he should have some confidence. If he really couldn't beat them, he could open a wormhole and escape with his family. Some of the planets they passed by on the way were quite suitable for living. Although Thea did not dare to contact Moira directly, she still told Felicity. "Alien monster." Felicity's voice was an octave higher. She heartlessly said that she would hack into a few satellites to watch the live broadcast. Sigh. Thea sighed. Felicity's way of thinking was indeed different from ordinary people. A normal person would have been scared out of their wits. What was her emotion? It was excitement, the kind of joy that came from coming into contact with a secret. What a weirdo. Chapter 277. Thea had done what she needed to do. She sat alone on the roof of an apartment, waiting for the arrival of the parallax demon. Her yellow clothes and black cloak covered most of her face, so she was not afraid of being recognized. However, she was soon discovered. There was a Chevrolet driving on the sidewalk like crazy. Amanda, dressed in a military uniform, opened the car door and stared at Sia, who was hiding her head and tail. With the eyesight she had trained as an agent, she still recognized her. She climbed up to the roof and asked, "Why are you dressed like this? Is what you said true?" Amanda often dealt with Batman, so she knew that this group of heroes liked this style. They all covered their faces tightly, afraid that their true identity would be discovered. "But you, Sia, are too good at creating news. A few days ago, you wanted to push down the temple. Now that the big alien monster is here, why can't you be more honest? Look at how good your brother Oliver is. He can solve all problems with a gun." Thea could only briefly explain to her again. There was no need to mention the yellow energy to her. Thea said that the monster that was coming was attracted by their research on the alien's corpse. Believe it or not, when the monster comes, all the victims will be killed by their own hands. Amanda was a little dizzy. She was indeed a little guilty. She did not expect so many things to happen after she dissected Hal Jordan's former Green Lantern. She did not dare to treat the evacuation of the residents as a joke, so she immediately ordered her subordinates to do it. The Heaven's Eye Society's style of doing things was simple and crude as usual. There was a loud explosion in the city center, and a large number of citizens fled out of the city. "What did you do?" "The war was coming. Thea did not want to waste her divine power. In order to know the answer, she could only ask the dark-skinned woman beside her. We detonated the gas pipeline near the main road in the city center. Amanda said casually, as if it was not a bomb, but a turkey stolen from the neighbor's house. Her subordinates whispered a few words to her. Amanda looked a little sad. There were 17 bodies found at the scene, and hundreds of people were injured. If you provided false information, I'm afraid I will be shot. Don't worry, Thea is telling the truth. A large black figure landed beside the two of them with a whoosh. It was the fully armed Batman. With the help of his bat cape, he jumped down from the plane. Following him was the first Robin in a blue and black combat suit, Dick Grayson, who had now changed his name to Nightwing. My satellite found a huge figure in Jupiter's orbit. It's moving very fast. Batman was not used to moving around in broad daylight, but he still explained to Amanda. Batman had a good reputation, and Amanda immediately believed him. She stopped mentioning the shooting and began to call the government frantically. Later, she felt that it was inconvenient and directly video-called a few high-ranking officials. Thea greeted Dick Grantham, who had now changed his name to Nightwing. After Nightwing left Batman's wing, he looked a lot more confident than before. However, the 2 iron rods he was carrying were a little out of place. Speaking of which, do you really know what a disparity demon is? These 2 iron rods looked mighty, but could they really break the hair of the loggerhead demon? Thea was deeply skeptical. What's that thing coming? Batman asked. From the satellite image, the size of the monster was far larger than he had initially expected, but he still came without hesitation. Nightwing, who had received the news, also came. The two of them could be said to have come with the belief that they would die for this matter that had nothing to do with them. Thea had always admired these kind of ordinary heroes, such as the Green Arrow and Batman, who had no superpowers but had the courage to jump out. These were the real heroes. Those who had a lot of superpowers, including herself, were at most in the category of people with great power and great responsibility. They were not heroes. She roughly told Batman and Nightwing what she knew. Thea. I know. Batman immediately thought of the past. The corner of his mouth twitched, but he quickly suppressed the agitation in his heart with his willpower. Thea paid attention to this scene and felt that it was a pity. Batman's willpower was not inferior to Sinisto's. It was a pity that she did not have the ability to create a yellow light ring, and even if she did, he would not accept it. Where's your friend in the red cape? He should be nearby. He doesn't want to be seen by too many people. He can hear our conversation. Hearing that Superman was coming, Thea finally felt a little more confident. Although Superman's magic resistance was often criticized, his courage was also worthy of recognition. His low magic resistance was weak compared to his invincible body of steel. This most powerful superhero in history had endless potential. The Parallax Demon should be able to defeat him. Hey, you're back on Earth? Is that Batman beside you? Do you know each other? The few of them were wearing all kinds of tights in broad daylight. It was hard not to be seen standing on the roof of someone's house. Although Hal Jordan was a little curious about her yellow clothes, he still recognized Thea and flew up with his girlfriend. Who is this guy? Batman and Nightwing asked at the same time. Hal Jordan's blabbering made them a little annoyed. Thea could only introduce their code names to each other. For some reason, Hal Jordan also introduced his girlfriend to them. Other than Thea, who glanced at the future purple light holder, Batman and the others acted as if they did not see this big living person. Batman, who was already dressed in black, now had his face exposed. You mean, this Green Lantern's previous holder landing on Earth is the cause of all the subsequent events? Hal Jordan nodded honestly. Then, he realized that Batman was completely ignoring him. Will Sinisto come? What about the rest of the Green Lantern Corps? Hal Jordan continued to interrogate without noticing. What could Thea say? Sinisto could not wait for Earth to explode into cosmic dust. It would be even better if he could kill Thea while he was at it. As for those old farts, Thea felt that they knew Earth's heritage and would not be willing to send the Green Lantern Corps as cannon fodder. Thea shook her head and did not answer Hal Jordan's question. She sat alone to adjust her state and prepared to absorb the disparity demon's energy. That's right. As the parallax demon got closer to Earth, she could feel the eagerness of the parallax book and the yellow light ring. The book seemed to have some new functions that the Guardians did not know about after absorbing the parallax demon. The panicked residents of Seaside City were also constantly providing her with the yellow light ring's energy. Fear of the unknown, and fear of the future filled the hearts of these people. However, the absorption process was suddenly interrupted. An even stronger suction force descended from the sky and swept away the fear in Seaside City. The enemy is here. Thea quickly stood up and looked at the distant sky. Chapter 278. The fear entity that represented the emotions of all intelligent creatures fell from the sky. It's on West Street. Let's go there immediately. Thea did not wait for them to respond and took the lead to fly there. Batman and Nightwing, the two brave guys, also ran 2 steps and caught up with the gliding function of their cloaks. Carol, run out of the city first. Don't hesitate. Hal Jordan ordered his girlfriend to run quickly. At the same time, he also rushed to the battlefield. Thea's speed was now the fastest among them. She was the first to see the parallax demon. She had to admit that this guy was really conceptualized. The combination of the fear power of the parallax demon and the special life form of the fallen guardian created a behemoth. It occupied the volume of an entire street. Its body was surrounded by yellow and black smoke, and the smoke constantly turned into tentacles to absorb the souls of the citizens who had not yet escaped the scene. I am the holder of the yellow light ring, the fallen guardian. I order you with the authority of the Book of Inspection, obey me. Thea now deeply understood the extraordinary power of the mouth game. It was really cool to talk before the fight, especially when the opponent was in her jurisdiction. Thea, who was holding the yellow light ring and holding the Book of Inspection, immediately attracted the attention of the parallax demon. A huge head poked out of the smoke. It looked a bit like a little blue man, but it was distorted and magnified thousands of times. The giant head was a little panicked at first, but when he looked at Thea's ring, with the rich knowledge of the Guardians, he guessed most of it and laughed. Those guys separated the rings? A bunch of idiots who can't see the power. I'll kill you first and get the yellow light ring, then I'll go to Aura to find my old friend. The parallax demon said and opened his mouth. A yellow beam of light with a diameter of more than 10 meters shot out. Thea immediately flew to avoid it. The beam of light hit the ground and created a large pit with a radius of more than 10 meters. What a pity. Thea could not help but sigh. If this guy had possessed any random alien, he would have been fooled by Thea. Unfortunately, he had possessed the Guardian race that had lived for hundreds of millions of years. These little blue people probably had an unparalleled understanding of the lantern ring. That was why he had been seen through at a glance and failed the negotiation. There was nothing to say. Let's fight. However, even though they were fighting, they still had to finish the formalities. Thea now had some understanding of these lantern rings. Regardless of whether they were righteous or evil, right or wrong, they must not be weak. How dare you? How dare you offend me? Thea shouted. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, she believed it herself. A giant made of yellow light appeared. The giant was wearing Arz's armor, but it looked exactly like her. It held a spear in its hand and roared indomitably. This was the first yellow light ring, although more than half of it had been taken by Sinisto. Sinisto, you were the one who took half of it. However, the remaining energy was far more than an ordinary lantern ring, not to mention the ridiculous temporary lantern ring. If the temporary lantern ring's conversion rate was set at 50 times, then the official lantern ring's conversion rate would be 100 times. The yellow lantern ring that Thea had obtained had a conversion rate of about 150 times. A large amount of controlled fear was converted into energy, and the giant that appeared grew to a height of 100 meters. The pale yellow giant exuded a shocking aura, and the fear of the surrounding citizens was inevitably absorbed by it. 2 vortexes formed on the battlefield. The parallax demon won because of its large size, while Thea won because of her tenacious will. Both of them were frantically absorbing the fear energy around them to prepare for the upcoming battle. Is this guy an alien? Can he be attacked by physical attacks? The first to arrive at Thea's side was the guy in blue clothes and red cloak. Superman was called over in a hurry. He had heard Thea's conversation with Batman and Nightwing, but he was still a little surprised to see such a smoke-like monster with his own eyes. He was not sure if his attack could hurt it. Don't attack the smoke, it has a physical body. Thea and Superman did not know each other, but it was not like they did not know each other. She said softly and rushed forward with her spear. F***CK, she's even fiercer than me. Superman naturally knew Thea. Last time, he mistakenly thought that Thea was his cousin. Later, he found out that it was a misunderstanding. Now that she was leading the charge, he believed that other than kryptonite, there was nothing in the universe that could hurt his body of steel. He was not afraid at all. Superman's speed was really fast. Even though Thea took the lead, the two of them still rushed to the front of the parallax demon together. Die. This was the downside of the emotion spectrum. When emotions were magnified 100 times, it was too easy to become emotional. Thea couldn't control her desire to shout out loud. She aimed at the parallax demon's big face and stabbed it. Superman's iron fist also hit the other side of the parallax demon's face. The parallax demon did not move at all. It spat out a thick yellow light beam again and swept toward the two of them. Superman dodged it easily. However, Thea's 100-meter tall body could not dodge it. She summoned a giant shield and was pushed back more than 300 meters. Only then did she manage to withstand the energy light beam with some difficulty. Superman flew to Thea's side. When he found that she was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief and asked, "My attack power has been weakened. Is it because of fear?" He can control your fear. If your willpower is not enough to suppress your fear, you will definitely be affected. Thea patiently explained to Superman. However, when she saw him pursing his lips, she knew that he was afraid of a lot of things. The power of emotions. Batman slid all the way and used his hook and spear back and forth. He finally made it to the battle. When he saw the big monster covered in smoke, he knew that he could not use his martial arts. When he heard Thea's words, he lowered his head and began to think of a solution. Thea still had high hopes for Batman. Nightwing, who followed closely behind him, felt his legs go soft. This was not because he was afraid of heights. It was because he was affected by the parallax demon's aura of fear. Superman was also a little affected. However, it was unknown whether he was forcing it or he was really not afraid. He acted as if nothing had happened. However, those who were familiar with micro-expressions could see that he was very nervous. Batman, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had happened. Batman began to operate the microcomputer on his arm. The invisible Batfighter in the sky revealed itself. Bang! Bang! The fighter fired a lot of colorless smoke bombs at the ground. This is the antidote I got from the Scarecrow. It can release a kind of pheromone that makes creatures happy. I wonder if it will work. Batman finished speaking and shot his hook and spear at the roof not far away. He was ready to contribute his strength. Thea could not watch Batman fight the parallax demon with his fists and legs. She was someone who could ignore the parallax demon. This guy could scare anyone but her. She controlled the yellow giant and continued to fight with the spear. Chapter 279. With a clatter, Sia flung out a yellow materialized chain and tied it around one of the parallax demon's thick arms, signaling the start of the attack. Batman threw out a bat dart and looked at the effect before flying into the Batfighter. Nightwing was helpless and could only join the team on the ground to help the old and weak. The main attack came from Thea and Superman. Thea held the chain with her left hand to prevent the parallax demon from running around. She held a long sword in her right hand and kept stabbing the parallax demon. Later, she realized that this was too inefficient and changed to a big knife to cut off the smoke and tentacles on the parallax demon. The parts that left the parallax demon's body turned into yellow energy. 60% was absorbed by the parallax demon while 30% was absorbed by Thea's yellow ring and the Book of Inspection. Another 10% disappeared into the void. Thea was a little depressed. Her instinct told her that the missing energy went to Sinisto. I've been fighting for my life and I can still get an upgrade while hiding in Eurasia. This is so annoying. The consequence of being annoyed was to kill even more. She could at least get 30%. Her bravery really surprised Superman. With a strong sense of mission, he could not afford to be careless. He took a deep breath and blew the ice breath at the parallax demon. Batman, who was piloting the Batfighter, cooperated with him and shattered the frozen parts. Green Lantern Hal Jordan joined the battle midway. He materialized a machine gun and fired green energy bullets at the parallax demon. Although the joint efforts of the few of them caused quite a lot of damage to the parallax demon, there were too many people in the coastal city. It had been peaceful for too long. Amanda's explosion did not frighten the people of the city. There were still many people hiding in their homes, thinking that they could escape the disaster. However, their wishful thinking caused a lot of trouble for Thea and the others. This is bad. This guy replenishes quickly too. Unlike Thea's Eye of Horus, Superman's X-ray vision had almost zero energy consumption. When he had nothing to do, he would look around. He was the first to discover the anomaly. The few of them fought for a long time. The parallax demons were constantly absorbing the fear of the citizens, and the total energy value was increasing slightly. If Sinisto were here, he would have ordered a massacre. Unfortunately, these people were heroes of justice. Even if the sun rose from the west, they would not do such a thing. Can you release some stun weapons to stun everyone? The parallax demon was fully focused on absorbing the fear and did not pursue them. This attack was in vain, so they retreated to discuss countermeasures. Thea saw the helplessness of the heroes of justice and gave them an idea. Good idea. Superman and Green Lantern praised in unison. However, none of them, including Thea, had any means of stunning her. The three of them looked at the person who had jumped out of the Batfighter. Damn it. Seeing the three inhuman guys waiting for him to speak, Batman almost cursed out loud. Did he have such a weapon? Of course he did, but what would the country and the military think if he released a weapon that could stun an entire block? Why did you secretly develop such a powerful weapon? In the future, countless questions from government officials and the Pentagon would annoy him to death. However, the arrow had already been narked. In order to prevent more casualties, he had to continue being the scapegoat. He quickly switched the magazines on the Batfighter and released 3 high-intensity stun bombs into the city. The high-decibel noise reverberated through the usually quiet coastal city. The loud noise was a little too much for the heroes. Thea conjured a soundproof room. Hal Jordan saw it and was very inspired. He also made one and hid in it with Superman, who had a keen sense of hearing. His energy growth seems to have stopped. Superman said to the few of them. They were affected by the noise, but the parallax demon had long lost the ability to hear. They hid in the small yellow and green house boldly. The parallax demon was not blind. He was directly smashed to pieces and continued to fight. The few of them attacked together again. They could see that the parallax demon's energy growth had slowed down. Thea found that her energy growth was almost stagnant. Now, in order to continue to maintain the huge energy consumption, she could only absorb from the parallax demon. While avoiding the attacks of various smoke tentacles, she cut off its limbs and absorbed its fear ability. While she was fighting, she saw Nightwing on the ground pass by her on a motorcycle and threw her a headset. Needless to say, it must be Batman's. She connected the line. What's the matter? 5 F-22s from the National Guard are about to depart and enter the battlefield in 5 minutes. The regular army is also on the way. Amanda wants to know if we can defeat this guy. Batman was also exhausted. He was fighting monsters while dealing with all kinds of wrangling. Is Amanda on the line? I'm here. Can't you guys drag this big guy out of the city to fight? The voice of the commander in black came from the communicator. This guy has no feet. Can't you see? He hasn't moved a single step from the fight until now. What do you want me to do? Thea was also helpless about the demolition scene. The destructive power of the few of them was too great and there was no way to control the energy. The only good news was that the reconstruction work would be difficult. Unlike Wayne Enterprises, which had long transitioned to biopharmaceutical research, and Luther Group, which focused on high-tech materials. As the only company in the country that still retained a large number of construction teams, the future reconstruction of Seaside City would be a big cake. Thea cancelled the giant's materialization. She didn't know if the parallax demon was possessed by the guardian little blue man. It could be said that it didn't know any martial arts. When faced with Thea's attacks, it didn't dodge at all. It only knew how to stab each other. Such a simple and crude combat ability left Thea speechless. No matter how clever her moves were, she couldn't do anything against this. She could only materialize a giant dragon with greater physical attack power. The dragon's teeth, claws, and wings flapped. The golden dragon looked quite righteous if one didn't consider the energy source of the light ring. The giant golden dragon grabbed the parallax demon's body. Its huge head seemed to be its weakness no matter how Thea looked at it. Without caring about the energy consumption, the dragon's claws dug into the parallax demon's body and pulled out the parallax demon's head with all its might. The heroes weren't stupid. They aimed at the parallax demon's head with all their might. Thea's giant dragon was blocking Superman's angle of attack, so he could only sweep it with his heat ray. Batman's fighter also activated all its weapon systems and launched a barrage of frost bombs and incendiary bombs. However, the combined attack power of the two of them was not as powerful as Hal Jordan's. Every time the green energy bomb that represented courage hit the parallax demon's body, the energy in the parallax demon's body could be seen rolling violently. Green Lantern, don't stop. Your attacks are the most effective against him, Thea encouraged Hal Jordan loudly. After accidentally taking a green stray bullet, she also experienced the damage caused by the Green Lantern and the Yellow Lantern's attributes. Hal Jordan, who was already crazy to begin with, was like a runaway horse. He started shooting even more recklessly. Chapter 280. However, 3 seconds later, Thea was infuriated by Hal Jordan's idiotic behavior. The parallax demon seemed to be dissatisfied with Thea's materialized dragon lying on its face. It opened its mouth wide and a yellow energy beam was rapidly brewing. Thea quickly controlled the dragon to avoid the front. Unexpectedly, the parallax demon's lips curled into a sinister smile. 2 giant hands reached out from the smoke, grabbed the dragon and threw it at Hal Jordan, who was happily firing at it. This idiot did not even notice who was coming. A fierce rain of bullets directly thinned Thea's energy shield by a layer. Idiot! Do you have eyes? Thea was trembling with anger. Hal Jordan also knew that he was too happy and quickly apologized to her. Thea needed to recover the energy that was depleted by her own people. This frontline shield task was handed over to Superman. Even though the closer he was to the parallax demon, the stronger his fear was, Superman still charged forward without hesitation. No, Superman's energy consumption is too great. Amanda, can you transport the Scarecrow to the front line? The safety of Earth requires his expertise. Thea looked at Superman and realized that he was mostly using his steel body to tank the damage. His expression was getting worse and worse. He could only contact the people outside to see if they could remove this unfavorable aura. I'll do it right away. Time passed quickly. Amanda brought the Scarecrow, who was supposed to contribute to the safety of Earth, to the scene. It had to be said that Gotham was full of talents. This professional collected some air at the scene and drew some blood that was infected with fear from the 2 agents who were known as the most stubborn of the Heaven's Eye Society, who had guns pointed at his head. After that, the Scarecrow excitedly took out a bottle of blue liquid that looked more like a potion than a syringe and handed it to Amanda. Only 1 bottle? Thea asked Amanda, who was also a little weak in the knees but was still holding on. The material is very precious. It involves extraterrestrial material. There was no doubt that the syringe was precious. However, who should it be used on? It seemed that the most suitable person was the big guy in the blue tights and red cape in front. Is this drinkable? Amanda rolled her eyes at Thea. It goes into the bloodstream. Why don't you have any common sense? Thea had too much common sense. How could she not know? She also knew that the needles on Earth could not penetrate Superman's body, but she could not tell Amanda that. For a moment, he didn't know how to tell the story. Fortunately, Superman's good friend, Batman, solved her problem for her. I can inject him, but he will be weak for a while after the injection. Oh? Did Batman already have kryptonite at this time? Did Superman give it to him? She really trusted him. I can help him recover his energy. Go ahead, I'll hold off this monster. Thea summoned a golden-armored giant to stop the parallax demon. You can restore his energy. Batman dragged his voice as if digesting the information. Then, he asked Superman to retreat through his communicator and inject the syringe. It seemed that nothing was wrong, but one could imagine that there would be many new entries on Thea's introduction page in his little black notebook when he returned. 2 minutes later, Batman signaled Thea to come back. Superman was about to die. Green Lantern, can you hold him off first? Thea did not know how many times she had slashed the parallax demon and how many times it had stabbed her. This kind of fight looked fierce, but in fact, they were absorbing each other's energy. No one could do anything to the other. Green Lantern Hal Jordan gave her a thumbs up. Don't worry, I'm very good at attracting people's attention. Thea was stunned for 2 seconds. Did this guy mean that he had a mocking face? What a rare talent. However, was this guy really trustworthy? Just as Thea was hesitating, 5 raptors from the National Guard arrived. They did not care about the heroes and villains at all. Instead, they fired missiles at the ground. Sia hurriedly put up a defensive shield. Such a melodramatic thing disgusted her. In the movies, she could always see the military killing the good guys and the bad guys regardless of the consequences. If it weren't for the effect, she would have shot down these airplanes. What the hell was this? Thea immediately left the parallax demon to the Green Lantern, who was good at attracting people's attention. Together with his former pilot, they quickly flew to the rear. Thea almost did not recognize Superman when she saw him again. The strong man was so weak that it seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. The blue tights that were originally bulging were now loose on his body. He asked Thea weakly, "You can restore me? I've never heard of such an ability. The universe is very big. Lie down first." Thea was a little impressed by these two. They were indeed heroes of justice. They did not even ask her about the process and directly took down Superman. If she was the bad guy, she would not betray their trust. Although she did not understand the principle, the yellow light ring clearly mentioned that the Kryptonians could be charged. Such a rigid ring would not lie. She extended her right hand and aimed the ring at Superman. A pale yellow beam of light connected the two of them. Amazing, it works. The half-dead Superman immediately sat up and began to absorb the energy. He felt good, but Thea was not so happy. Superman's body was like a bottomless pit, continuously absorbing the energy of Thea's yellow light ring. When the yellow light ring's energy was only 10% left, Thea unilaterally stopped the energy supply. Damn, how can you absorb so much energy? Judging from the intensity of your battle just now, you shouldn't have so much energy. Could it be that your body's energy is not full? Superman was a little embarrassed. Sorry, I can't control it when I absorb it. But you're right, my energy is not at its best. Okay, my fear is gone, and my energy has increased to 80%. Leave this big guy to me. After saying that, Superman rushed to the front of the parallax demon at a speed that Thea had never seen before. He did not care about the difference between a virtual body and a physical body. He threw a punch at it. The air seemed to ripple from his punch. Time seemed to have frozen. After a few seconds, there was a violent explosion. So strong. Thea took out the charging lantern and charged the ring. She could not help but exclaim in her heart when she saw Superman's extremely powerful punch. When one's strength reached such a level, they could really ignore a lot of things. Regardless of the enemy's level and state, they could only rely on pure strength to crush them. This was the future god of strength. Superman ignored the fighter jets in the sky that included him. He punched and kicked the parallax demon. His every punch and kick had a strange rhythm. Thea's eyesight was not enough to judge the meaning behind it. She could only feel that Superman's every attack contained great power. The parallax demon was in the form of smoke. No matter how hard it tried to attack, its attacks could not even tickle the body of steel. It was beaten up badly by Superman. Chapter 281. Thea was studying Superman's attack style, but she found that the other party's fighting style was completely different from her own. There was no way she could use it as a reference. She sighed and prepared to wait for the parallax demon to die before absorbing its origin power to deepen the foundation of her ring and the new function of the Book of Inspection. However, this inadvertent glance made her discover the parallax demon's abnormality. "What's wrong?" Batman asked. "This guy's power is slowly increasing again." Thea was a little in disbelief. She took a closer look before she said to Batman, "Could it be that the citizens are providing him with that fear?" Amanda kept looking around as if a monster would jump out of the quiet houses around her. Thea did not answer. Logically speaking, she did not see the parallax demon's intention to absorb fear. However, his continuous increase in power was not fake. From being beaten up by Superman one-sidedly, he now had some ability to fight back. There was even one time when Superman was almost surrounded by smoke. Fortunately, he reacted in time and suddenly exerted his strength to squeeze out of the gap in the smoke. The parallax demon seemed to have no good way to deal with this guy with copper skin and iron bones. His energy attacks were all neutralized by Superman's heat rays. However, the Guardian's knowledge was too little related to combat. He now had a huge amount of energy, but he could not hit Superman. This made him a little annoyed. He accelerated the speed at which he destroyed the surrounding buildings, trying to create an open space to crush Superman with his body size. Where did this guy get his energy from? Thea opened the Eye of Horus and observed carefully. She could see that Superman's power was beginning to decrease, but the parallax demon's power was not depleted. How was this possible? It's the satellite. All the satellites in the world are gathered here. Won't the people around the world be affected by the TV broadcast? Batman suddenly said, which made Thea suddenly realize. That's right. This bunch of news media is just here to watch the show. They are constantly providing new fears to the parallax demon. Amanda, contact the government and stop all broadcast. Thea made a prompt decision. Regardless of whether it was true or not, she had to stop the satellite broadcast. "Do you think I'm putting on a monkey show? I don't have the habit of performing in public." Amanda also realized the seriousness of the situation. She made calls like crazy, but in less than 3 minutes, she said in frustration, "No, many media outlets are not controlled by the government. The financial groups behind them don't buy it." Thea nodded. She could already imagine the scene of those fat tycoons refusing Amanda with cigars in their mouths. It was a typical example of them not caring about anything. "Since you guys lack the spirit of a national chess game, then don't blame me." She pulled Amanda aside and asked in a low voice, "Can we use hackers to hack those satellites?" Amanda, who was used to being lawless, was frightened by her. She whispered, "That's thousands of satellites around the world." Thea glanced at her and contacted her number 1 henchman. "You want to hack all the satellites around the world?" Felicity had always been extraordinarily bold. Now, she was also shocked by Sia's shocking move. She thought for a moment about the feasibility of this major event. "But our computers are not good enough. I still need some helpers. Let me borrow Wayne Group's supercomputer. I'll find you some helpers." Thea ignored the fact that Batman was listening in on the side. She blatantly ordered Felicity to hack Wayne Group. As for the helpers, it might be difficult for others, but it was not difficult for Thea, who knew the plot. "Can you release Felicity's father, the world's top hacker, Noah Smoker, to help her?" Thea turned to Amanda and asked. "You've investigated him. Okay, I'll ask him and a few other hackers to help. Remember, this has nothing to do with the Heaven's Eye Society. It's a group of hackers spontaneously formed." Amanda lied, but she did not believe it herself. It was impossible for father and daughter to meet. One was still in prison, and the other was in Star City. Sia had no way of knowing if the father and daughter could sense that the other party was someone they were familiar with through their cooperation. However, the satellite signal on the screen was decreasing rapidly. The speed of the parallax demon's energy recovery was slowing down. "It's working. Continue." She was the only one who could see the specific energy fluctuations. She controlled the others to continue hacking until all the satellites were hacked. However, when there were more than 20 signals left on the screen, Felicity's bitter voice came. Some countries have internal control over their satellites. The network can't be connected. Needless to say, these were the satellites of those indescribable countries. What should they do? A serious problem was placed in front of them. It was not impossible to discuss it with them. They were very reasonable people. However, by the time they finished the meeting, the parallax demon would have to settle down on Earth. I heard that Wayne Group's Watchtower space base has some special shielding function. Thea looked at Batman with a serious expression. Batman almost bit his tongue. Destroying the temple, throwing bombs into the crowd, using a supercomputer to hack the world's satellites, and now you want to use my watchtower to cause trouble? Batman shook his head like a rattledrum. Absolutely not. He did not want to go all the way down the path of anti-humanity. Facing Batman, who vowed to die, only he knew the control password. If he did not agree, Thea would have to think of another way. What should I do? Thea hugged her elbows and kept thinking about her several methods. How about this? She felt the magic in her body. It did not conflict with the yellow light ring. It's pitch black here. You won't be able to see anything, right? In the face of a pitch black night, ordinary people would not have any fear. Telling Batman not to fall, Thea brazenly activated her chosen one ability, Eternal Night. The energy of the yellow light ring seemed to be in good harmony with Thea's magic. It was also triggered by her magic. The overwhelming darkness covered the sky of Seaside City and dozens of miles around it. What is this? Everyone was affected. Thea did not have time to care about them. She first looked at Superman. She had to admit that Superman was really strong. Even Ars's talent was weakened by more than 10%, but it definitely had less than 10% effect on him. Perhaps because the parallax demon was possessed by a male guardian, it was also magically classified as a male and also suffered less than 10% reduction. Just when Thea thought that the battle would end with Superman's absolute advantage, her mental power sensed danger in the front right. She saw a smaller parallax demon emerge from the ground. Yellow light ring bearer, your time is up. The dazzling yellow light beam shot straight at Thea. Clang! Just as Thea was about to summon a shield to block the attack, a nimble figure landed in front of her. The person had a shield on his back and a sword on his back. He crossed his arms in front of him and blocked the light beam without taking a step back. Chapter 282. The person turned her head slightly. Her delicate face was adorned with a pair of bright eyes. Her face was filled with classical beauty, and it set off her tall nose bridge and red lips. Her wavy black hair was draped over her shoulders, just like yesterday. It was the scene of roasting wild boars together on Paradise Island. It was the dance under the moonlight in a small village in Belgium. It was the 100-year separation after the war. Diana Prince. Thea Quinn. I miss you so much. I've been looking for you. Before they could finish their words, they were replaced by a passionate kiss. This kiss contained all kinds of emotions. There was the sorrow of parting, the joy of meeting again, and most of all, the eternal love between them. Fut. Batman, who was working on some equipment at the side, was really shocked this time. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. The electric drill in his hand directly pierced into his leg. Fortunately, his batsuit was thick enough to avoid the fate of being crippled. The two of them did not linger for long. Although they had a lot to talk about, now was not the best time. What is this thing? Diana looked at the parallax demon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. She was a little surprised. This thing looked very fierce. There was no need to hide anything from Diana. Thea did not care if she understood or not and told her the whole story of the parallax demon. The incarnation of fear. Diana clenched her fists and thought for a while. I'm full of courage. I have no fear. Thea nodded vigorously to express her affirmation. That's right. Originally, Paradise Island had suffered a great loss. Perhaps there would be a gap in their hearts that would be swallowed by fear. But now, the people of Paradise Island were alive and kicking. No one would harm them. They could still live for 5,000 years. Diana was almost fearless. But who is that big guy? Is there someone so powerful on Earth? The big guy that Diana was referring to was Clark Kent. The parallax demon was very cunning. He took advantage of their lax state of mind. Not only did he ambush Thea, he also attacked the few fighter jets. Those unlucky fighter jets did not have Diana to tank the damage. Apart from one fighter jet that reacted slightly faster and was hit in the wing, the pilot successfully parachuted out. The rest of the pilots could be reported as having died for their country. Thea remembered that Superman and Diana were still a little flirtatious in the original timeline. She decided to nip the bud in the bud. In order to prevent Superman's superhearing, she set up a soundproof barrier. She bit Diana's ear and said, "That guy is an alien." Diana, who had a good impression of Superman's bravery, instantly had her impression of him drop by 20%. Her mission was to protect Earth, and she had killed many aliens over the years. Her impression of aliens was almost negative. Although Superman seemed to be a good alien, the thought of befriending him after the war faded. After taking a few glances at the battle, he realized that although Superman had the upper hand in the battle, the parallax demon was very cunning. It repeatedly used fainted citizens as cover, making Superman hesitate and not dare to attack with full force. "I'll go help him." After Diana finished speaking, she pulled out a sword that was very similar to the Godslayer and rushed forward with her shield. Sia looked at Diana with concern for a long time, only to find that Diana was no longer the same as before. Her strength had skyrocketed. If it was said that Sia was more likely to lose than win when they fought against each other back then, now she couldn't even see the shadow of victory. Diana's attacks were not like Superman's, which relied on strength to win. Superman's attacks looked fierce, but they seemed a little clumsy. It was very much in line with the essence of old American street fighting. It was the kind of fighting that did not defend or evade. It was an upgraded version of punching and seeing who would fall first. This made Thea, who prided herself as an outstanding grandmaster of combat on Earth, a little uncomfortable. This was because this fighting style was not beautiful at all. On the contrary, Diana's fighting style was very elegant. Her speed, strength, and skills were all at the peak of perfection. Every time she attacked, there would be 3 or 4 variations depending on the opponent's reaction. Occasionally, the power of the Silver Guardian bracelet would surge, and it could inflict heavy damage on the parallax demon. "She's really good. I have to work harder too," Thea muttered softly. "This woman is your friend? And why is this veil of darkness that you cast affecting everyone?" Batman walked to her side at the right time. He was holding a strange-looking big gun in his arms. The muzzle of the gun was the size of a bowl, and there were electric sparks flashing from the magazine from time to time. What kind of black technology was this? Thea glanced at it and did not understand. "Ah, she's a friend that I've known for a long time." As she said that, she pointed to the sky again. "This is magic. I've mentioned it to you before." Thea was not in the mood to explain her talent to Batman. Batman could not help but look up at the sky. The moon is still in its original orbit. But where did this moon come from? However, no one answered him. Thea recharged the lamp ring. It was not appropriate to instantiate ours in front of Diana. Fortunately, she still had another familiar god that she could instantiate, the hawk god Horus, a giant divine hawk with a body length of more than 50 meters and a wingspan of 300 meters appeared on the battlefield. The divine hawk's right eye flashed with a terrifying light. It was obviously the eye of Horus. Thea flew into the divine hawk's body and controlled it. She flew to the parallax demon like a sharp arrow released from a bow. Her iron hook-like claws grabbed a large cloud of yellow gas straight into the sky. After absorbing it, she charged forward again. Superman, who had the support of the 2 girls, was finally relieved of a lot of pressure. He looked at the 2 girls from time to time. Thea's attack pattern was not unfamiliar. After all, he had seen it before. It was similar to the guy who had been instantiating a green weapon not far behind him, except for the color of their clothes. However, Diana really attracted his attention. This woman was too strong. Superman was not a martial arts master. He actually did not have a specific idea of how his strength increased and decreased. He only knew that it was very strong. Therefore, although Thea's discriminating barrier cut off less than 10% of his strength, the total energy in his body was too large to notice any major abnormalities. Now that his strength was reduced by 10%, and Diana had increased it by 30%, the originally small distance between the two was instantly narrowed, giving Superman the illusion that this woman was about the same as him. As Batman's good friend, Superman also had a bit of a male chauvinist tendency. No matter what, he could not watch the two girls defeat the enemy. A serious Superman was terrifying. His strength was almost limitless, and it was increasing every minute and every second. A large amount of smoke on the surface of the Parallax Demon's body was dispersed, and its body, which originally occupied the entire street, also had a tendency to shrink. Green Lantern, use your chain to create an opportunity for them. Thea flew to Hal Jordan, who was instantiating an anti-aircraft gun and was having a good time fighting the Parallax Demon. This guy really had no experience in team combat. As his mentor, Sinisto would have a headache for a while. Chapter 283. Although Hal Jordan had a lot of problems, such as being stupid, talkative, emotionally unstable, and so on, he could still listen to advice. He immediately followed Thea's instructions and conjured a large number of green chains, firmly binding the Parallax Demon. This guy's ring is extraordinary. Thea could not help but think when she saw this scene. Although the ring that Hal Jordan inherited from Abin Sul was not the first green light ring, as one of the greatest warriors of the Green Lantern Corps, Abin Sul's ring must be one of the best in his generation. Thea released the Parallax Book. This book had absorbed a lot of the Parallax Demon's yellow energy and had some new functions. The originally decorative chains of the book could also be released. With just a command and without needing to consume anything from Thea, the energy in the book would automatically activate and trap the enemy. 2 light chains, 1 green and 1 yellow, bound the Parallax Demon tightly. Bang! Bang! Gunshots rang out continuously. Batman was standing on top of a building, holding his strange-looking gun and shooting at the Parallax Demon. The bullets would produce some rainbow-like smoke at the point of impact. The Parallax Demon, who was originally bound by the chains and struggling violently, obviously weakened its resistance. A hint of dullness flashed in its fierce eyes. What kind of F*King advanced technology is this? The thing about Batman was that you never knew what kind of strange things he could come up with. Perhaps inventing and creating things was one of his abilities. Since the enemy did not resist, the few of them naturally did not stop. Superman's big fists were punching the Parallax Demon's head. Thea and Hal Jordan also conjured various weapons and greeted the Parallax Demon warmly. Diana was the one with the most ferocious attacks among the few of them. It was not known if it was because of the happy occasion, but the Guardian bracelet sensed her intentions and strengthened her body with a strong will to fight. The invincible divine power was reflected on the Parallax Demons through the sharp swords. Every attack was filled with dazzling divine light. The Parallax Demons needed to use a large amount of fear energy to repair their bodies so that they would not be scattered. I am the Guardian. My strength and wisdom will never be defeated by a small planet like Earth. The body of the Parallax Demon is no longer as huge as it was when it first arrived. Overall, at least 1/3 of its body has been consumed. Thea's yellow light ring has absorbed a lot of its essence, but she knows that the real test is coming. The Green Lantern Corps has produced countless powerful warriors throughout its history. In my long life, I've seen countless geniuses. Let them play with you. The Parallax Demon took a deep breath. His gigantic body was completely rooted to the ground. As he accumulated power, the entire American continent could feel the tremors. The Inspector Fiend completely gave up on defense and allowed them to attack. One of his eyes had been blinded by Superman. It was unknown what energy Superman had attached to his attack, but no matter how much terror energy he used, it showed no signs of recovery. Ha! The Parallax Demon opened its mouth and spat out countless meteorites and broken buildings. Among the rubble, there were a few green lights that were particularly obvious. This guy still had this trick up his sleeve. Thea quickly asked Hal Jordan. Her yellow light ring could not detect the Green Lantern core. The results of Hal Jordan's Green Light Rings scan came out quickly. Gemini Cova, Green Lantern Core Sector 2214, went missing 37,000 years ago. Carl Holtz, Green Lantern Core Sector 269, went missing 110,000 years ago. Gareth Knight, Green Lantern Core Sector 1129, went missing 2,100 years ago. A total of 5 Green Lantern Corps warriors appeared in front of them. They were still wearing the traditional Green Lantern uniform, but it was a little tattered. Their eyes were dull and their mouths were slightly open. Their bodies had been preserved by special means, but their consciousness was still stuck at the moment when they were trapped. The green light rings on their fingers were still flashing, proving that their consciousness still thought they were in a battle. The Parallax Demon laughed like a villain. These people are the prodigies of their respective eras. I have preserved them. I often help them recharge their batteries. Haha. Let them play with you guys. The few Green Lanterns who were reported missing seemed to have received some kind of signal. They each flew up mechanically and found an opponent. It was unknown whether it was lucky or unlucky. Uncle Batman, who was determined to be a great Earthling, also encountered one. With a whoosh, a seemingly powerful Green Lantern fired an energy bomb at him. Master's martial arts training was not in vain. He dodged the energy bomb with a beautiful somersault, and at the same time, threw a bat dart at the Green Lantern. What followed was a violent explosion. Seeing this scene, Thea was relieved. Master's brain was undeniable, but the combat power of Earthlings was really no match for these cheats. Seeing that Batman could still exchange a few blows, Thea decided to quickly finish off her opponent and then rush to his aid. However, Batman was reassuring, but the one who was worried was another person. With a loud shout, Thea quickly tied up her opponent with a chain and turned to look at the sky. What she saw almost made her eyes pop out. Superman was pierced through by his opponent with a big green sword and fell to the ground, almost unconscious. Damn! Imitating the wavelength of kryptonite? Sure enough, he was an experienced warrior. This was not something a rookie like Hal Jordan could compare to. Superman's opponent was about to hit him again and completely kill this son of kryptonite. Although Superman had the talent of reviving after death, Thea could not watch him die in the hands of a nameless person who had been missing for many years. At the same time, she controlled the Parallax Book to control the opponent in front of her. She quickly blocked the opponent's fierce attack. Thea wanted to fight 2 people at once. The opponent's attack speed was extremely fast. In addition, he was experienced and had been controlled by the Parallax Demon. The suppression of the yellow light ring on the green light ring was non-existent. Thea also had to pay attention to the opponent controlled by the Parallax Book. It was extremely difficult for her to fight. As for Superman, who fell to the ground, she could not care about him. Presumably, he would not fall to his death. Hey! Thea glanced at the ground. Just as Superman was about to make intimate contact with the ground, a figure flew by and caught the falling Superman. A little girl. Thea fiercely attacked a few times and forced the 2 opponents to retreat. Then, she looked at the girl. Blonde shoulder-length hair and a checkered shirt. She looked like an ordinary city girl. She was 2 years younger than Thea. After the yellow light ring scanned her, she had a lot of data that was far beyond the average person. Moreover, she had a physique that could be charged by the yellow light ring. Thea understood. This little girl should be Supergirl Kara Danvers. She looked very young and did not have a battle suit. She flew over in ordinary clothes. Most likely, she had seen the satellite broadcast earlier. However, she should have some combat power. She would not be able to deal with the Green Lantern warrior. However, it would be good enough if she could help Thea restrain the Parallax Demon. Little girl, the big guy is fine. I'll leave the big boss over there to you, Thea shouted while pointing at the Parallax Demon that was chasing after Hal Jordan. Leave such a big guy to me. Aren't you guys thinking too highly of me? Kara Danvers opened her mouth slightly. She looked at the opponent that Thea had chosen for her in a daze. Chapter 284. The Parallax Demon stood tall with smoke swirling around it. Its huge face was dozens of meters tall. The future Supergirl might have the courage to face any enemy, but Kara Danvers, who was passing by on a whim today, was still a little nervous. She couldn't help but look at the parallax demon while complaining in her heart. Weren't these Earth Guardians thinking too highly of her? His first battle as a fledgling was such a heavy responsibility. Thea could naturally see that little Chow was obviously lacking in confidence. She clenched her fists and was somewhat eager to try, but more than that, she was nervous. She thought she was nervous, but she was still affected by the halo of fear. While dealing with the 2 Green Lanterns in the air, Thea had to explain the situation of the battlefield to her. It was not something that could be described as tiring. "Little girl, can you hear me?" Thea was afraid of being overheard by Batman and various state agencies, so she lowered her voice. Although they were far away, they should be able to hear it with their super hearing. In order to prevent information from leaking out, she also switched to the language function of the light ring and spoke in standard Kryptonian. Little Supergirl was surprised to hear the hometown dialect out of the blue. Kara Danvers had left Krypton at the age of 12. Unfortunately, he had entered the Phantom Zone where time had stopped. It had only been 4 years since he had arrived on Earth. Although she looked much younger than Superman, who had a face full of vicissitudes of life, they were truly siblings. How did she? Little Supergirl's expression changed drastically as she turned to ask Superman. Superman was sent to Earth when he was a baby. He learned the Kryptonian language later, so he did not have a deep understanding of it. Plus, he was seriously injured when he was hit by the Kryptonian wavelength imitated by green light. He looked dispirited and said, "This is the second time I have seen her. Her ability is strange, but she is not a Kryptonian. Can you guys hear me? If you can, just nod your head." Thea's light ring was more powerful than the 2 green lights, and with some magic support, she had the upper hand. She asked again when she realized that they had not responded to her. Kara Danvers nodded hurriedly. He thought to himself, "Can you see it from so far away?" Not to mention, Sia really could see. With the help of the yellow ring of fear, the Eye of Horus had undergone a transformation. When Kara Danvers glanced at it, he felt as if he was facing a giant wild beast. He could not help but shrink his neck. "I'll keep it short. These green guys are the bane of the Kryptonians. I'm sure you've seen it. I need you to restrain that smoke monster. The green guy it's attacking is on our side. The other 5 green guys are our enemies. Don't fight with them. Just restrain them. Do you understand?" "Oh." Little Supergirl replied with an "oh." She instructed Superman to recover on his own and flew towards the parallax demon. Although she was still suppressed by fear for the first time in battle, Thea's eternal night had also strengthened her. Overall, her strength was slightly stronger than usual. Holding down the parallax demon and beating it up, Hal Jordan, who had been holding up the courage shield, was released. The talkative Green Lantern almost couldn't stand still. Originally, he was far away, and being a long-range attacker didn't have much of an impact on him. However, the parallax demon wasn't stupid either. It looked for the easy targets. After releasing the 5 Green Lanterns, it immediately went for Hal Jordan. Facing the fear head-on, coupled with Thea's discriminating barrier, the Green Lantern could not even use 30% of his original strength. If Supergirl did not help him, he would be the first to die. Originally, Thea wanted him to support Batman. However, when she saw that he was almost paralyzed on the ground, she knew that she could not count on him. Fortunately, Diana showed her power at the critical moment. She grabbed a Green Lantern with 3 arms with the lasso of truth and smacked his head off with her shield. The remaining Green Lantern was also blasted into pieces by the great divine power guarding the silver bracelet. The so-called strongest warriors of the 2 Guardians were no match for her. It was unknown whether the 2 corpses had already run out of energy. The moment their lives ended, they turned into ashes along with their rings, dissipating on Earth far away from their homeland. She, who had good tactical knowledge, immediately judged that despite the support of the Nightwing, Batman was really struggling to hold on. Although Thea was 1 against 2, she had many tricks up her sleeve. She could definitely win against the 2. She made up her mind to support Batman first. Batman, who had received her support, completely retreated. He was sweating profusely. He was highly focused and almost used up all his tricks. In order to cover him, the Nightwing was pierced through his stomach by the green light energy. Blood gushed out. Batman ordered the Batfighter to transport him to the rear for treatment. The three male compatriots, Superman, Green Lantern, and Batman, all left the field while panting. The situation on the field was a little strange for a moment. Diana, who was the strongest, was dealing with one of the opposing Green Lanterns alone. It was a complete one-sided slaughter. Thea, who was in the middle of the pack, was dealing with two Green Lanterns. Both sides exchanged blows and had the overall advantage. On the other hand, the inexperienced and unconfident Supergirl, who did not even know how to shoot heat ray, was beaten into a sorry state. The parallax demons would occasionally shoot out yellow light beams from their mouths, sending Supergirl fleeing in all directions. Little Super's awareness was not bad. She knew that she only needed to hold this big guy back. Her flying ability, which was not very proficient, was rapidly improving. She constantly interfered with the parallax demon's attack route, but she just did not fight it head-on. The equally experienced Green Lanterns also gave up on attacking and focused on holding back Thea and Diana. The situation was extremely anxious for a moment. Cat, the Green Lantern, whose mind was blank, deactivated his transformation and threw his ring at Thea. He did not understand the rules of the ring. He only thought that Thea had worn a green ring before. Now that she had another one, she could strengthen her attack and perhaps break the situation. However, Thea, who caught the ring, was a little hesitant. Medicine could not be taken carelessly, and rings could not be worn carelessly. In the future, there would be a lot of people who wore 2 rings or even 7 rings, but today, at this time, 2 rings were really unprecedented. Should she wear it or not? While dealing with the fierce attacks of the 2 Green Lanterns, Thea was in a fierce struggle. If others can wear it, then I can too. Her instinct told her that she should wear it. Finally, she made up her mind and put the green light ring on the middle finger of her left hand. The moment she put on the ring, Thea's mind was blown. The whole world was revealed to her. Tall, thick, and rough buildings filled her vision. Perhaps other light ring users could not see what it was, but Thea immediately judged that it was the end of this universe, the barrier of the whole world, the wall of origin. There was a lot of debris on the wall, including space dust, broken stars, and the powerful beings who were trying to find the world behind the wall. Legend had it that the Yucca Khan, who could destroy the moon with a single glance and destroy an entire civilization with a single glance, was stained on the wall. However, the ring only glanced at it slightly, and it had no intention of revealing all these secrets to Thea. Chapter 285. Although it was just a quick flash, Thea understood that the ring was telling everyone who wore the rings that they had to go to the world behind the wall and put the power of the emotional spectrum back into the light reservoir. Unfortunately, no one understood the meaning until Kyle Rayner put on the white light ring. He entered the wall and reinstilled the power of emotions, avoiding the inevitable fate of the world being destroyed due to the lack of emotions. Every time the power of emotions was used, the world would be one step closer to destruction. If someone as noble as Superman knew the truth, they would definitely not use it, but Thea. Did the 3,600 members of the Green Lantern Corps use too little? It doesn't matter if I'm there or not, the process of wearing the 2 rings went smoothly beyond imagination. Thea had a great fear, but she had gotten to where she was today through fear. It could be said that it was fear that gave her the motivation to keep moving forward. Fear and courage were like 2 sides of the same coin working together, making Thea's achievements far surpass those of the original timeline. Fear gave birth to courage, and courage overcame fear. The 2 opposite emotions completed a round of exchanges in her body. In the violent turbulence, Thea completed a new transformation. It had to be said that Hal Jordan's green light ring was extraordinary, only slightly inferior to Thea's split yellow light ring. Wearing the 2 rings at the same time, her combat uniform changed a little. The Yellow Lantern Corps symbol was still there, but the original yellow and black clothes had green shoulder pads and leg guards. The black cloak was yellow on the inside and green on the outside, and her shoulder-length hair fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were the most eye-catching, one light yellow and the other dark green. Thea stared at everyone present. Supergirl was in danger. Superman, who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead, was mumbling something. He was obviously using his super hearing to teach her, but even so, Supergirl was still in danger. She had escaped danger several times by relying on her amazing speed. "I'll take care of the two of you first," Sia said as she gathered a cluster of colorful light on her finger and pointed it at the Green Lantern Warrior's forehead. The painful expression on the Green Lantern Warrior's face quickly disappeared and was replaced by a peaceful expression. The Green Lantern Warrior fell to the ground in extreme relief. Thea conjured a cushion to carry him down slowly, and used the same method to take care of the other one. "Diana, don't kill him. Go support the other side. Leave this guy to me." After stopping Diana, who was about to kill the Green Lantern Warrior, the two of them still had the same tacit understanding. They swapped positions and let Diana, the world's #1 shield specialist, deal with the parallax demon and save the little Supergirl who was about to collapse. Sia gathered her spirit and used the same trick to take down the last Green Lantern Warrior. "I'm so tired." It seemed easy, but the use of spirit was not easy. The few Green Lanterns were controlled by the fear of the parallax. Their thoughts were stuck in the struggle before they were captured. They were not bad people, but heroes of that era. Being killed like walking corpses was a disgrace to their contributions to the universe. Thea used the yellow light ring and the parallax's emotions to inject the green light spectrum into their hearts. Fear made people escape, courage made people face it. Although their bodies were modified by the parallax, they were still almost decayed after a long time. Their souls were overwhelmed. They should be brought back to Eurasia to enjoy a hero's funeral, not die on Earth and be dissected by the evil scientists on Earth. Thea was not really concerned about this at first, but the green light ring gave her some new insights. She faced her heart and was ready to face the future upheaval with a more positive attitude. She would stop as many as she could. Thea took off the green light ring and threw it back to Hal Jordan. Wearing two rings at the same time did not change Thea's combat strength much. Controlling two emotions was a heavy burden on her spirit. "Your spirit is too exhausted. Leave the battle here to us. Take them back to Eurasia. They are the heroes of our race. They should not be buried here." She did not know if Hal Jordan understood Thea's intention, but the three of them were obviously on their last breath. Hal Jordan, who now had a sense of belonging to the Green Lantern Corps, nodded heavily. "I understand. They will enjoy a hero's funeral." Just as Hal Jordan was about to fly away, Thea stopped him. "Abin Su's body is in the hands of the government. I will do my best to get it back. If you see his family, ask them to give me some time." Abin Su could be said to be a link between the past and the future. Hal Jordan was his successor, and Sinisto was his brother-in-law. At the same time, he was also the greatest warrior in the eyes of the Guardians. Only God knew what the scientists on Earth could do with his body. Furthermore, she worked with Sinisto. If he came to Earth and found out that his brother-in-law and best friend's body had been dismembered by the Earthlings, wouldn't he explode? In any case, Sia herself would not be able to accept this fact. Therefore, the right thing to do was to get his body as soon as possible. This matter would inevitably require the involvement of higher-level decision-makers, as well as the involvement of Amanda. How troublesome. Thea rubbed her head and could not help but glance at Batman. She might have to drag him into this matter. Thea was afraid that Hal Jordan would not understand the seriousness of the matter, so she reminded him again. "You must keep Sinisto and Abin Su's family in check. You know that the upper echelons of Earth have a very delicate relationship. They will not give up the alien's body easily." "I need some time." Hal Jordan was very touched. Originally, the holders of the light ring were all sentimental creatures. He did not know Thea's thoughts. He only felt that she was the embodiment of humanity's brilliance, exuding supreme virtue. He patted his chest and said that he would handle everything. He would stop Sinisto even if he had to kneel and beg. Then, he flew out of the atmosphere with the three Green Lanterns with tears in his eyes. Glancing at the battlefield, Diana, who was almost maxed out, worked well with the little Supergirl. There was no need to worry for the time being. Thea flew to Superman's side. While the battle was not over and the government agents could not get in, she collected the blood flowing on the ground. She could clone a Superman if he lost a hair. This pile of blood could make a nest. This was the bad thing about fighting on Earth. It was too tiring. What are you going to do with this blood? Thea asked the two big bosses, Batman and Superman. She had no need for this blood at all. It was not God's blood. Who knew what would happen if she absorbed it? Superman shook his head. This blood was contaminated by the wavelength of kryptonite and could not be drunk. It was useless to give it to him. Let me deal with it, Batman said. Thea passed it to him. As for how he would deal with it, Thea did not care. Let me heal you again. Looking at Superman lying on the ground like a dead dog, Thea was speechless. This big boss was injured by kryptonite twice in the same day. He was really unlucky. Chapter 286. This time, Thea learned her lesson. She knew that Superman was a bottomless pit. He could store as much energy as he wanted. She did not use her life to inject energy into him. Instead, she only healed 30% to 40%. Alright, you can fly now, right? Go outside the atmosphere and absorb energy. Superman stood up. His red cloak fluttered in the wind. Together with his strong face, he looked extremely cool. You know us very well. Is it because of the ring on your hand? That's right, that's right. Thea was too lazy to argue with him. She flew towards the parallax demon. As she flew into the battlefield, she could still hear Diana scolding little Supergirl. You used too much strength. The flying angle is not right. Don't rely on your body to block the attack. You have to choose how to dodge. Diana was blabbering on about the flaws in little Supergirl's attack. It was still a copy of the time when Thea taught her how to fight on Paradise Island. Although she could tell that little Supergirl was an alien, she had to admit that appearance was really important. The cute appearance and the passionate aura of Kara Danvers reminded her of the old Diana. The two of them were surprisingly compatible for the first time. Thea materialized a giant golden dragon and entered the battlefield directly. In fact, the most ideal materialization of the yellow light ring should be Diawolo, the Dreadlord of the Dark World. Unfortunately, that guy's image had nothing to do with justice. The giant dragon had no choice but to choose him. Diana, how did you find us? The giant dragon grabbed one of the parallax demon's arms and spat out a sharp blade from its mouth to cut off the absorption. Thea took the opportunity to ask. I heard that you guys were going to build the Temple of Artemis. That's why I saw you. Diana used the shield in her hand to block the parallax demon's yellow light beam. Under the continuous spitting, her power was far weaker than before. The silver bracelet of the Guardian hit the parallax demon's big face. After that, I rushed to the United States and saw the live broadcast here. That's why I came here. Thea found that the energy of the two came from the same source. Her own lethality was too weak. She pulled out her divine bow and narked Zeus' lightning arrow. Using the strong mobility of the giant dragon, she flew to the parallax demon's blind spot and shot an arrow. The power of the lightning was almost unparalleled. It caused great damage to the weakened parallax demon. A deep blue wound remained on the demon's face for a long time. The divine power attached to the arrow was rapidly depleting its fear energy. Where have you been all these years? A streak of yellow light flashed past. Thea ordered the dragon to lower its head while she leaped up to dodge the yellow light. She then shot arrows at the parallax demon in mid-air. Africa, Europe, Asia, I've been looking for you. Diana drew out her treasured sword. The blade of the sword seemed to be burning with a ball of fire. She quickly slashed at the parallax devil. The tacit understanding between the two of them as they fought monsters and chatted made little Super feel a little out of place. She couldn't help but shrink her neck. As for the other parallax demon who was treated as a passerby, he was furious. Chatting with me while fighting? Do you think I'm dead? Ant, don't you dare ignore me. I'll show you my true power. Before the parallax demon could finish his sentence, a meteor seemed to fall from the sky. A red and blue figure fell from the sky and crashed into the parallax demon with a boom. The violent impact even caused the entire Earth's crust to tremble slightly. The shockwave spread rapidly in all directions with the parallax demon as the center point. All the buildings in its path were turned into dust. Only a smear of red could be seen floating among the dust. This fella is too strong. Thea conjured a small house and hid in it with Diana. Little Super followed suit. It wasn't that the shockwave was very destructive. With the toughness of their bodies, even Thea, who was the weakest among them, could withstand it. The main thing was that it was too dirty. Not many women could withstand fighting like this every day. Thea suspected that the hidden function of Superman's cape was to remove dust. The three of them saw the smoke dissipating slightly and came out to help. But in less than 10 seconds, they found that there was nothing they could do. Now Superman seemed to be a little excited after being exposed to the sun. He grabbed the parallax demon and punched and kicked it. It was a very crude move, but in his hands, there was a hint of inexplicable feeling. Every punch of his had a special rhythm. Ignore. It was complete disregard. The transformation between virtual and real was ignored. The parallax demon's body was ignored. Even when the parallax demon created a clone in his body and tried to sneak past Superman, he was discovered and held down by Superman. I won't lose. How can a puny Kryptonian be my opponent? Superman's characteristics were too obvious. As a guardian who had lived for hundreds of millions of years, it was too easy to recognize him. But in his impression, Kryptonians were not this powerful. He couldn't figure out if this fella had mutated or undergone some kind of transformation. The parallax demon's body was emitting waves of powerful energy waves. Its gigantic body was shrinking like a spring that had been compressed to the limit. Let's retreat first. This time, Kryptonian wasn't bluffing. He really intended to use a big move. Thea called out to the two girls and distanced themselves first. Other than the kryptonite, nothing else could hurt him. Superman continued to attack the parallax demon without fear. Boom! A loud sound that was far louder than Superman's meteor from outer space reverberated in their ears. A house that looked very soundproof and shock-absorbing appeared again. The three of them went in. But the explosion came and went as quickly as it came. Did this guy self-destruct? Thea ran out quickly. She took out the parallax book and tried to collect the escaping energy. But she found that the energy in the air was minimal. Wait for me. I'll go take a look. Thea said and flew back. Diana wouldn't let her take the risk. She flew and followed. Little Supergirl looked around and followed. The three of them arrived at the scene one after another. They were shocked by the scene in front of them. The smoke parallax demon that occupied the entire street disappeared. In its place was a huge insect with an old face. It was 100 meters long and 3 meters tall. It had many legs and wings. Its entire body was golden. Its human-like face was filled with the traces of time. Weak chicken, Thea said softly. She didn't mean that the parallax demon was weak. She was referring to the weak will of the guardian that possessed it. It was the parallax monster's will that possessed him, not the other way around. Now, only his head was still recognizable as a human, while the rest of his body had been assimilated. His willpower was simply too weak to withstand a single blow. She drew her bow and shot an arrow at the parallax demon. She took out the parallax book and looked at it. It was okay. The energy could still be absorbed. There was nothing to say. Let's fight together. Diana didn't know what the parallax book was for. But seeing that she seemed to care about it, she drew her sword and slashed at it. Now that the disgusting smoke was gone, the parallax demon's physical attack had been strengthened significantly. However, at the same time, the parallax demon would receive more physical damage. Unfortunately, Diana was the kind of person who liked physical attacks. Chapter 287. Thea felt that the parallax demon was out of its mind. It had given up its greatest advantage and fought Superman with its physical body just to focus all its strength on Superman. It was crazy. However, in terms of pure physical damage, Thea was obviously weaker than the others. Even though she looked skinny and weak, she was still able to lift the stone pillar and smash the parallax demons with it. compared to Thea, who had a variety of skills but did not have high physical attack power, and Supergirl, who was strong but slightly immature. Superman and Diana fully displayed their powerful destructive power. In less than a minute, the excited Superman had broken 2 of the Parallax Demon's limbs. Diana's attack rhythm was similar to his, but she was more gentle. Her sword flashed coldly and cut the Parallax Demon's carapace and wings into pieces. Thea was provoked by these monsters. She jumped far away and opened the Parallax book to absorb the yellow energy. The patterns on the book began to become visible to the naked eye. Superman saw the Parallax Demon's weakness and sent it flying. Diana landed from the sky and stabbed the Parallax Demon's head with her sword. Then, she jumped up. Superman and Supergirl's 4 heat rays hit the Parallax Demon directly. The fallen Guardian, who had lived for billions of years, was blown to pieces without even saying a word. The battle finally came to an end. Superman, who had a tough face, whispered a few words to Supergirl. He did not talk to the others and left alone. Supergirl said goodbye to the others embarrassedly and flew to the other side. Thea began to gather the scattered fear energy. The Guardian's life structure was very special. Even with the Eye of Horus, Thea did not find any body parts. This was good news. She was not interested in digging 3 feet into the ground to look for pieces of such a big worm. When Amanda arrived with a large group, she saw Thea flying away with Diana after collecting the yellow energy. Why did they all leave? Amanda, who had arrived at the scene with a dark expression, was speechless. She had heard that the place she was standing on used to be the central square of Seaside City. There used to be a lot of shops, but now, she felt like she was in Afghanistan. She could only ask Batman, who was standing like a javelin. Batman was also speechless. The few of them had flown away. The Batmech pulled Nightwing to the rear. He wanted to leave too, but the surrounding area had been beaten into a wasteland. There was not even a meter-tall building to be found. His hook gun was completely useless. Helpless, he was blocked off by Amanda. They all flew away. Batman replied in a bad mood. He was determined to go back and research a piece of equipment that could fly on the ground. Next time, he would team up with these guys who were good at demolition so that they could escape after the mission was over. Not to mention Amanda, who was scouring the battlefield, and Batman, who was preparing to go home with the help of the 10 Paths. Thea brought Diana to Star City. Knowing that she did not like to be disturbed, or that Diana was a little arrogant, Thea cast an invisibility spell on the 2 of them and walked on the streets as if there was no one around. "That's the amusement park I used to go to when I was young. Do you see that bald guy over there? When I was young, my brother brought me to his backyard to cause trouble. He chased us for a long time. Do you want to try the amusement park over there?" The 2 walked leisurely on the streets of Star City. No one was paying attention to them, and no one disturbed them. Sia kept introducing her past, from her childhood to her youth. When she talked about the interesting things, Diana laughed. "Amusement park? I've never played it before." Diana was a little eager to try Thea's suggestion, but she was still a little reserved. Come on, but I'm afraid your clothes won't do." Thea wanted to drag her to buy the tickets, but when she realized that she was wearing a full body armor, a shield, and a long sword, she was worried that she would mistake her for a crazy person. She felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere. "Idiot. I'm not the same person I was when I first came out of Paradise Island." Diana rolled her eyes at Thea flirtatiously. In the blink of an eye, she had changed into a black dress and a pair of pointy heels. Her legs were straight and long under the tight dress and pointy heels. Thea was speechless. This girl claimed that she was mature, but she was still lacking in common sense. This is an amusement park, not a runway for models. How can you play when you're dressed like this? However, in order to look more compatible with her, Thea put away her casual clothes and changed into a long dress that was similar to a formal dress. The 2 of them looked at each other, and for a moment, they could see the undisguised admiration in each other's eyes. Their beauty attracted the attention of many visitors in the amusement park. Even the staff could not help but criticize them when they handed the tickets to the 2 of them. Are these 2 idiots? Why are they dressed so extravagantly to the amusement park? The 2 of them did not care about other people's gazes. Diana did not care, and Thea was just thick-skinned. Many adults who brought their children to the amusement park were dumbfounded when they saw the two of them in their long dresses and high heels. If they were ordinary people, it would be fine, but the two of them were extraordinarily good-looking. Diana's body was filled with the classical beauty of Greece, which was not seen in America or even Europe. Thea was even worse. She had tried her best to hide her aura, but the eye of Horus could still sense the power of fear. It was a dangerous and intoxicating charm. "Here, have a taste of this," Thea said as she handed a small cake to Diana. The current Diana was no longer an ignorant girl in the original spacetime who could be dismissed by ice cream. Diana took it and took a small lick. Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed. "It's too sweet, is it? Is it?" Thea pretended to be confused and took a bite of the cake where Diana licked it. "Heh, how dare you take advantage of me?" The two of them bickered for a while, and the sense of alienation disappeared. It was as if they had returned to Paradise Island. The roller coaster and bumper cars were all children's games, so the two of them did not get involved. They walked hand in hand in the bustling crowd. Occasionally, there would be a few thieves who wanted to rob the two of them because of their fancy clothes. However, they were intimidated by Thea's invisible aura. It was not until the two of them had walked far away that they realized that they had lost their composure. They did not dare to look at their backs and ran away. "What have you been doing all these years? Have you been back to Paradise Island?" The two of them found a bench and leaned against each other. Thea put her hand next to Diana's and compared them. Diana's fingers were slender and strong, while Thea's were nimble and slender. It could be said that Diana was better in terms of beauty. Whether it was her appearance or her body, she was worthy of the god's blessing. She was the embodiment of strength and beauty. Under her radiance, even Thea's appearance that had been refined several times was still inferior. Chapter 288. Thea's advantage over Diana was that she was completely a contemporary, and the optimization of her appearance was also based on her original appearance. Her appearance was more in line with the aesthetic standards of the contemporary era. "I've been to many places in the past few years." Diana looked at the crowd nearby. Her thoughts had already drifted far away. The glory of Greece is no longer there. The traces of the gods walking in the world can no longer be seen. Even all the gods in the world have disappeared into thin air. "I've traveled from Europe to Africa, then to Asia. After that, I've sailed to America." "Hee hee." Diana chuckled and revealed the answer to Thea's puzzled gaze. "I also saw Audrey Hepburn. Hee hee. I only borrowed her song." Thea was a little embarrassed. She felt guilty plagiarizing Hepburn's famous song. "But she's now." Thea was about to ask Diana to introduce her to Hepburn when she suddenly realized that 100 years had passed. She probably wouldn't be able to meet this person anymore. Although she doesn't have any divine power, she's a great person. I once wanted to help her extend her life, but she rejected me. I could only let her pass away peacefully without suffering from the disease. Thea could see that Diana and Hepburn were close friends. "I will accompany you." Compared to the previous 100 years of peace, Thea was extremely suspicious of how much suffering Earth would suffer in the next 10 or even 20 years. In the face of countless enemies, the length of one's lifespan was really meaningless. "What's your job now?" "I inherited Hepburn's foundation. I fight for the rights of women and children." Diana seemed to be very satisfied with her job. Her expression was full of a sense of mission. "So that's how it is," Thea thought to herself. "No wonder I couldn't find her at the Louvre. Diana met Audrey Hepburn because of my Moon River, and then she went to help the poor. It's really, really a wonderful situation. What a pity." Thea's eyes dimmed. She originally wanted Diana to stay in Star City with her. Although she didn't have high hopes, she still wanted to try. Now that she saw how independent she was, it was better not to say such things. Both of them had strong personalities, so there was no possibility of accommodating each other. Asking Diana to give up everything to stay in Star City, or asking him to give up everything to help the poor. Thea shuddered as she imagined the scene. It was too beautiful. A group of dirty black children would grab her for candy. She would probably even take out her bow and arrows. Fortunately, now that the two of them had reunited, it would be easy for them to meet again in the future. The yellow light ring's speed was the fastest among all the lights, and Diana's speed could also exceed the speed of sound. The distance between the two of them was not limited at all. How are the people on Paradise Island? Thea withdrew her thoughts and focused on the present. Let Diana deal with the poverty alleviation. She didn't want her money. It was better to talk about the happy past. As expected, Diana's eyes lit up at the mention of Paradise Island. That was her home. Due to the rules of her clan, she couldn't talk about Paradise Island with anyone else. However, Thea had no problem at all. Although she wasn't a member of the clan, she was still one of them, so it was not a problem for her to talk about it. My mother built a rice barn not far from Mount Lee. You still remember that mountain, right? You threw the javelin quite a distance back then. Anshope trained another female warrior. She's really good at fighting. Diana chatted on about the situation of the people on Paradise Island. She didn't let go of many trivial things, but these trivial things were more important to her than how many aliens they killed and how many African warlords they annihilated. Thea felt the softness in her heart and hugged her. Do you still remember the Godslayer? Diana asked softly. How could she forget? The Godslayer of ours. For Sia, the only thing this stupid sword could do was to instill fire elemental magic into it during a fight. It looked cool, but it was actually useless. Yes, my mother said that the god of fire forged two swords. One is your Godslayer, and the other is the Vulcan's sword that I used in the battle just now. The Vulcan's sword is sharper, but my mother said that your Godslayer is better. Thea rolled her eyes at an angle where Diana couldn't see. Hippolyte, this B*TCH, must be full of bullsh*T. The Godslayer is better than nothing. Just as she was complaining, a group of children ran past them and shouted, hurry up, the circus is about to start. Thea turned around and looked at Diana. Have you seen a circus before? Why don't we go take a look? What's so good about lions and tigers? Diana was a little confused. She wasn't even afraid of wild animals, let alone domesticated ones. Let's go take a look. You'll find it interesting if you treat yourself as a normal person. Thea pulled Diana. This girl didn't live a happy life. She waited for her for decades, and then went to the most difficult place in the world. She was too far away from happiness. Thea had to make her happy again. The children didn't run far. Even if they ran far away, the two of them could still catch up with them. Following their footsteps, the two of them came to the northeast corner of the amusement park. Walking into the large circular arena, they could see that there weren't many people in the audience, but they were all very focused. The show had been going on for a while. The two of them found an empty seat and sat down. The circus didn't slack off because of the lack of audience. Everyone put in a lot of effort in their performance. The domesticated animals also performed their show skillfully. An exaggeratedly dressed old man with a white beard led a tiger through 5 fire rings, which caused a round of applause. Thea and Diana also watched with great interest. It was easy for them to kill a tiger, but they didn't have the ability to domesticate it. Next, let's welcome our brave warrior from Gotham, the man who can dance with the Grim Reaper. Boston Brand will perform his trick. The announcer shouted excitedly, and what he got in return was warm applause from the audience. Soon, a man in red tights appeared on the stage and threw a flying kiss to the audience. Thea glanced at it and didn't look anymore. It was just a flying man. For ordinary people, it was exciting. A lot of adrenaline was secreted, and it was a dangerous and artistic sport. But for Thea and Diana, flying wasn't a difficult thing. This event was less attractive to them than the tiger that went through the fire rings. The noisy applause meant that the man's performance was good. Thea and Diana were discussing the construction of the temple. But as they were talking, an accident happened. The man who was performing the flying man exclaimed. Like a pile of junk, he drew a beautiful arc and fell to the ground from a height of 50 meters. Bang! A burst of dust was brought up, and the warm applause came to an abrupt end. Chapter 289. The man fell heavily to the ground and stopped breathing. The crowd was shocked at first, but it was quickly replaced by panic. Many people were hysterically saying things that they didn't understand. Thea was telling Diana about the architectural style of the temple. The exterior was designed in the past, and the interior was decorated by the people from Paradise Island. What happened in front of her stunned her. What the F***ck? Thea's neck was a little stiff. It seemed that there were only two famous deaths in the circus in the entire DC world. Batman's son, Dick Grayson, was from a family of flying people. His parents died when he was young, so he followed Batman. The other one was in front of her, the guy with the codename Dead Man in the Dark Justice League. Thea glanced at the spirit floating in the air. It looked like him. He was wearing red tights and had a pale face. It was rare for a normal person to reveal their soul after death. Only those with extremely strong mental strength could do so. The guy who fell to his death was born with stronger mental strength than normal people. Plus, he was highly focused before his death. However, in her impression, this guy was chosen by some goddess of death after his death. Then, he became a superhero who lived between life and death. Thea wanted to ask, where is this goddess of death? Not far away, the spirit of Boston Brand, who was floating near the stage, was dissipating at a visible rate. As more people walked around the stage, his spirit dissipated faster and faster. Is there really a goddess of death? Which pantheon does this goddess belong to? Is it from Earth or from another planet? Is it from the current dynasty or the previous one? Thea didn't dare to believe in her memories. Seeing that Boston Brand's spirit was about to dissipate, it would be a pity to let him dissipate. Finally, she made up her mind. She reached out a finger that was as white as jade and pointed it at Boston Brand, whose spirit was about to dissipate. Thea's willpower wasn't as strong as Sinisto's, but her understanding of the use of energy was far better than that of the lanterns. In Boston Brand's situation, it was useless to inject divine power into him. He would probably explode. The right way was to let him release new energy from within his body. What in the world could stimulate human potential more than fear? Wrapping a trace of fear with magic power, he directly injected it into Boston Brand's spirit body. The spirit's gaze instantly turned from slackness to panic. He let out a heart-wrenching scream. Unfortunately, there was a barrier between life and death. Other than Thea and Diana, no one else could hear him. Thea had underestimated the impact of fear. Her fear was enough to paralyze a few ordinary people. Furthermore, Boston Brand was in a spirit body state. His mind was highly focused, and without the buffer of his cerebral cortex, he directly faced the fear that seeped deep into his soul. The instantaneous mental fluctuations affected reality as the spirit body quickly fled. Thea only had time to take a glance, as though something had happened to the fellow before she couldn't find him. What's going on? Thea looked at Diana in confusion. That guy seems to have transformed from a spiritual body into a new form. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Although Diana's realm was high, she still leaned towards the physical aspect. In terms of certain knowledge, she was even inferior to Thea. I think so too. It seems to be a new mutation. Thea got Diana's affirmation and was even more certain of her judgment. At first, she was still wondering why only Boston Brand was in such a state. There were millions of people who had died in the world, and there were also people with strong mental powers. Thea couldn't help but think about it. Boston Brand had told many people about his bizarre experience, but in the subsequent developments, other than himself, no one else had seen this mysterious goddess of death. Could it be that his state was caused by me? Could it be that I'm that imaginary goddess of death? The terrifying law of causality made Thea feel a little scared. She then thought about how Rudolph lived until 1937, and how Steve Trevor spread the Spanish flu. Everything that she was involved in seemed to have changed, but the trajectory of the changes was the same as the history she knew. Was she really involved in these things? What are you thinking about? Diana's timely voice interrupted Thea's repeated arguments about the cause and effect. There were too many things involved, so Thea was not prepared to tell Diana her thoughts. I'm thinking about who the murderer is. I'm deducing. Diana rolled her eyes at her. You're pretending again. Your eye of Horus can distinguish right from wrong, and my lasso of truth can make him speak the truth. Is there a need to do your so-called deducing? Sia had the urge to facepalm. What Diana said was right. Their abilities worked together seamlessly. That would make Washer so angry and Hattori so embarrassed. No matter how cunning a criminal was, he would be useless in front of them, she muttered to herself as she activated the Eye of Horus. Soon, a thin and tall balding old man came into view. The Eye of Horus told her very unscientifically that this man was the murderer. The murderer was found, but how was she going to expose him? Thea did not want to be seen by her acquaintances in Star City. Just as she was in a dilemma, her eyes lit up. A large group of acquaintances had appeared. She cast an invisibility spell on herself and Diana, hiding in the crowd to watch the subsequent developments. Get out. Don't ruin the scene. It was Thea's old acquaintance, Detective Lance of the Star City Police Department, and Laurel's biological father. Among the male police officers, a female figure was even more eye-catching. It was the little beauty Shadow whom Thea had rescued from Purgatory Island. Shadow was wearing a neat police uniform and white gloves. After the accident examiner examined the body, she began to do her own forensic work. The victim was 28 years old, male, 1.83 meters tall. The cause of death was a fall from a high altitude. Detective Lance was very experienced in this kind of case. He quickly determined that the rope of the trapeze had been sawed off, and that he had fallen to his death during the performance. This could not have been done by an outsider, so he immediately gave the order. Take all of them away. In the past few years, with Sia's financial support, the Star City Police Station had sufficient funds and recruited young and strong police officers. The young people were bored to death in a place like Star City with good public security. When they heard the order, they went up and began to arrest people. Thea still had a lot to talk about with Diana. She did not want to see them waste time. She walked over to Shadow and set up a noise-cancelling barrier. Shadow, it's me, Thea. Don't look back. I'm invisible. Shadow had seen many of Thea's tricks, so she was not surprised. She meticulously continued to examine the body. That balding and tall man over there is the murderer. Identify him. I have a way to make him tell the truth. Actually, Thea did not have a way. Any spell needed time, and there was no need for that. Under Diana's lasso of truth, no one could lie. Chapter 290. The process of Shadow testifying the suspect went very smoothly under Sia's instructions. Diana's lasso of truth was tied to his calf, but it didn't attract any attention. This person spilled the beans from a bamboo tube and told Sia about his experience. Brand asked for half of our circus's income. He's too greedy. He even signed contracts with 2 other circuses and caused a bidding war between 3 other circuses for personal gain. He seduced the senator's daughter and wanted me to apologize to the senator. He brought shame to the entire circus. The bald, lanky man was the person in charge of the circus. Under the lasso of truth, he loudly explained his motive. It could be said that he wasn't a bad person. He was dedicated to the circus and had never been selfish. On the contrary, it was Boston Brand's insatiable greed that forced him onto the path of crime. Looking at the bald, lanky man's determined face, as if he had completed a sacred mission, Thea was a little speechless. The murderer was a good person and the victim was a bad person. Where did this sense of déjà vu come from? Take him away. Detective Lance confirmed that he was the murderer after collecting evidence from several parties. He was a little sympathetic, but he still had to take the bald, lanky man away. A large number of police officers came and left. The noisy circus was completely deserted, leaving only the 2 invisible women. Come out. How do you feel after seeing your former boss's hatred for you? Thea looked at the empty seat. I really didn't know. I was so annoying. Boston Brand, who was wearing a red tights, had already woken up from his nightmare. He seemed to be trying to find some habits from when he was alive. He sat in the audience and covered his face with his hands. Unfortunately, he had no more tears. Diana had a scholar's spirit in her bones. Whether it was when she wanted to study men or later when she saw the heifer, they all piqued her interest. Now that 100 years had passed, it was hard for her to change her nature. Seeing Brand's strange spiritual body, her bright eyes couldn't help but turn a few times. This guy's form is really strange. Can I try using the lasso of truth? Diana whispered. Thea rolled her eyes at her. Do you think this is a hoop game? However, you can give it a try. I'm also very curious as to how he became like this. Thea wanted to figure out if the so-called goddess of death was behind the scenes, because she didn't even notice Brand when he didn't show himself. She only found out that he was around because of her fear. He didn't use the invisibility spell. Instead, he seemed to be hiding in a different dimension. Diana had previously thought that Thea had something to do with this person, so she hadn't taken action. Now that she had received the signal, she grinned as she took out a lasso. As though she was playing a game, she wrapped it around Boston Brand. Speak, who are you? How did you become like this? Diana was still dressed fashionably, but her aura was like that of a goddess of war. Even though Brand was already dead, he was still scared out of his wits. Previously, Thea's fear almost scared him to death again. It wasn't easy for him to recover, but he didn't know where to go. After circling around, he returned to the circus and witnessed the development of the situation after he was killed. He had mixed feelings. After being exposed by Thea, he wanted to ask the only person who could see him what was going on. Before he could say anything, he saw a shiny rope around his body. What's going on? He had been wandering outside for a long time. No one could come into contact with him, and he couldn't come into contact with anyone either. Now, what is this rope? More terrifying things had yet to come. As Diana questioned him, he couldn't help but tell her everything he knew. He told himself to shut up several times in his heart, but his body seemed to be out of control. He told her everything he should and shouldn't say. Although this guy is a bit of a jerk, he's not a bad person. It's just that his hallucinations are a bit strange. Diana asked a few more questions. She retracted the lasso and whispered to Thea. Indeed. There are too many people like him in modern society. The results of the interrogation were the same as Thea's initial guess. Brand chattered on about how he shared his life with a lot of people. He talked about the goddess of death and the fallen angel discussing the meaning of existence with him. When Thea heard this, she wanted to spit in his face. Fallen angel? What kind of supreme existence would be able to discuss the meaning of existence with a trapeze artist like you? It hadn't even been 20 minutes since he died and ran back. There was no goddess of death at all. Everything was just a figment of his imagination after he focused his mind. It could be said that the only suspicious person he had met after he regained consciousness was Thea herself. Was it because she knew everything about the dead that she created him, or was he created by her in the first place? The complicated relationship gave Thea a headache. She waved at Brand and said, "Forget it. It's nothing. Go do your thing." Thea and Diana were on their honeymoon. She didn't want this guy to follow them around like a ghost. However, her attitude made Brand want to cry. "I'm busy. Busy my ass. I don't even have a body anymore. I want to be busy." If it was in the past, he would have scolded her. However, now that he was neither alive nor dead, his mentality had changed drastically. Plus, Thea's fear had been deeply rooted in his soul, so he didn't dare to bare his teeth at her. Thea also felt that it was a little inappropriate to leave him alone. This guy's ability seemed to be useful. She immediately said, "How about this? Your life form is irreversible. I'm afraid you need some time to think about your future. If you've made up your mind, you can come and find me," Thea said as she took out her business card from her satchel. Her phone number and email were on it. "I can't touch the physical body," Brand said pitifully. This guy doesn't know his ability. Does he not have it? Or does he not know how to? Thea touched her chin. Just then, an old man walked past the circus. Thea pointed at the old man and said, "Adjust the frequency of your spirit body to be the same as that person's. See if you can enter his body." Brand was actually very smart. After turning into a spirit body, the use of his mind power was almost instinctive. He floated to the old man's side, prepared for a moment, and entered his body. Brand, who was in the old man's body, looked down at his hands. He seemed to have thought of something and asked Thea, then, "Can I come back to life again?" "Unfortunately, the old man's soul has been rejecting you. It's only because this old man's mind power is weak, and your mind power has been strengthened tenfold or even hundredfold after your death that he has no resistance to your possession. While you're eroding his body is also affecting you. If you don't come out for a long time, you'll spend the rest of your life in this old body." Thea combined her knowledge and gave him a rough analysis. Brand clenched his fists in frustration and jumped out of the old man's body. The old man couldn't see them and thought that he was only in a temporary trance. After checking that his body was fine, he continued to walk forward without feeling anything. Brand's face was ugly. "I've suffered because of my evil deeds. I'm already dead. I won't take away someone else's chance to live. I want to be a good person." Chapter 291. Thea didn't care if he was a good person or not, but Diana was already urging her. Knowing that he couldn't come into contact with material things, she wrapped the business card with her magic and threw it in front of him. "When you decide what you want to do, you can come and find me." With that said, Thea walked into the distance with Diana in hand like an expert, leaving Boston Brand standing at the entrance of the empty circus, out in the northwest wind. The two found a luxurious hotel and had a friendly and passionate art competition. The initial battle could only be described as a crushing defeat. Diana, whose physical fitness was at the highest level in history, could only be described as crushing Thea. Thea had no choice but to use the doppelganger technique to fight Diana together, and only then did they maintain a draw. "Are you going to wait for me here or come with me to see Amanda?" After the indescribable competition, the two took a shower. Thea was drying her hair. Abin Su's body still needed to be retrieved, otherwise, who knows what the scientists on Earth would do to him. Is it the department that Steve Trevor later established? "I'll wait for you. I don't want to get involved in human politics." Diana was also very tired. She was lazily wrapped in a nightgown and flipping through a fashion magazine. When she heard Thea's question, she didn't even raise her head. But that warrior's body should be transported back to his planet for a proper burial. "I support you on this. Then it's up to you. When I come back, I'll definitely defeat you." After the two kissed each other intimately, Thea put on the yellow light ring and flew towards Washington. He had spoken to Amanda on the phone before, but when he saw her again, he could see that she looked terrible. Thinking about it, a third of Seaside City was destroyed, and nearly 10,000 people went missing. Of course, that was the official statement. As politicians who instinctively pushed the blame to others, they naturally needed someone to take the blame for them. On the surface, the blame was thrown to the dead Senator Hammond, but behind the scenes, the blame fell to Amanda. Amanda, who originally had the upper hand in the internal power struggle of the Heaven's Eye Society, was beaten down again, and she was once again evenly matched with Steve Trevor's forces. After the battle between Thea and Diana, they had fun for the whole day. In the end, there was a friendly match. Amanda had been scolded badly by the generals of the Department of Defense. She was born with dark skin, otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to withstand it. When she heard Lara say that Thea wanted to see her, she originally didn't want to see anyone. However, after thinking about the future, Thea was much easier to talk to than Batman. Moreover, the black-haired woman with a sword and shield who appeared today made Thea even more important in her heart. "Why are you looking for me in the middle of the night?" The female commander, who used to be tough and capable, was now exhausted. She forced herself to come to see Thea. However, Thea's first words made her nervous. "Is the body of the first alien still in your hands? I would like to request for this body to be sent back to his planet for burial." Amanda refused immediately. "That's impossible. The body was taken away by the military. There are too many political games behind this." Thea sneered. Political games? In the face of power, everything was a joke. However, she still wanted to try to convince Amanda. Although this woman had a lot of problems, she was at least patriotic. "I don't care about your political games. I just want to tell you that the body isn't a wild boar or a lion from our forest. It's an intelligent life. It has family, friends, and children. Amanda's expression was normal. She was unmoved. Thea knew that she had to give her some serious advice. He's not alone. Their organization is called the Green Lantern Corps. There are 3,600 official soldiers like him and tens of thousands of unofficial members. With such a large organization, do you really want Earth and America to suffer their wrath? Amanda was a little hesitant. One alien was enough to torture her to death. Would 3,600 of them be able to survive? However, she still asked cautiously, how strong are they? Everyone's individual combat power can sink an aircraft carrier. If you include their alien technology, then the Green Lantern Corps' biggest advantage was their numbers. At the same time, it was also their weakness. Naturally, they would not be united when there were too many people. However, there was no need to tell Amanda this. Thea saw her hesitation and added another heavy blow. If you want, I can take you to their planet to have a look. Amanda was a little tempted. However, she quickly suppressed her childish thoughts. If Earth was the #1 planet in the universe, she could go and have a look with 180 guards. However, the current situation was obviously not so. Thea was not related to her. If something happened and she ran away, how would she be able to come back if she was trapped in another planet? Amanda was really worried about Thea's illegal tour guide. She shook her head and rejected the idea of a day trip to another planet. The alien's body is indeed not in our hands. If you need it urgently, I can give you a chance to convince a few defense generals. What do you think? Thea also knew that the battle in Seaside City had attracted the attention of the world. Under such circumstances, the Sky's Eye Society had to hand over the source of everything, which was Abin Su's body. They would need to talk to higher authorities. She had already expected this and immediately nodded in agreement. Amanda made a few phone calls. Although her tone was not servile, it was not as overbearing as it was a few days ago. She put down the phone and asked Thea to follow her. That black-haired woman with a shield today is your friend? Amanda could not help but ask halfway. That's right. Thea was puzzled. Anyone with eyes could see that. I've seen her picture. It's a group photo. Is she one of Steve's people? This question lingered in Amanda's heart. Nonsense, she's one of my people. Steve is an asshole. Thea was particularly unhappy when she heard this. If it were not for the influence of the timeline, she would have killed Steve 100 years ago. How could he still be alive now? Is that so? Amanda did not comment. Although her relationship with Thea was intermittent, on the whole, Thea was still her ally. If a powerful warrior like Diana could turn over a new leaf to her side, she would wake up laughing in her dreams. The two stopped talking. Amanda led Thea onto the plane and landed outside the Pentagon. The two took a private car into the building complex. Thea was no stranger to this place. The Quinn Group was fully transformed. The scientific and technological achievements of the Applied Scientific Experiment Department were combined with some of the wisdom of the Atom Man. The demonstration of several products was praised by the defense experts. This month alone, Thea had been to the Pentagon 3 times and signed a contract of nearly 100 million yuan. Several generals and experts in the Department of Defense who were responsible for the development and manufacturing of new products were very familiar with her, not to mention Amanda. She felt like she was going home. She took the two into the depths of the building. Chapter 292. She walked to the door of the conference room. Even through the well-sealed door, she could hear a man talking in exasperation. The voice sounded a little familiar, especially when the man kept calling her Amanda. The iron-blooded commander's face, which was already dark, turned even darker. He opened the door and walked in first. Oh, that's why the voice sounded familiar. It was him. When Sia entered the room, she saw a tall man shouting something loudly. She knew that he was not praising her for doing a good job by looking at Amanda's expressionless face. The patriotic captain who had fallen on Paradise Island had a gloomy look on his face. He was still hot-blooded, but he was no longer the same person. Time had passed, and the virus had transformed him. Although he had been promoted from captain to colonel, it was fair to say that Steve Trevor had sacrificed too much. The old man sitting at the head of the table interrupted Steve's speech. Even the old politicians could not stand Steve's gloominess. If it were not for the involvement of the Sky Eye Society, he would not have wanted to see Steve. "Miss Quinn, why are you in such a hurry to ask us to hand over the alien's body? Do you have any new information?" "Mr. Minister, I know all the generals." Thea looked around and nodded slightly. Steve was the only one she did not recognize. In Amanda's eyes, this was a sign that Thea was drawing closer to her. In fact, Thea did not like Steve. She did not even like Superman. In short, anyone who had anything to do with Diana was an enemy. "All the generals know me. You may have some findings, but I still need to tell you everything from the beginning. It's normal that you can't find any remains of the alien monster today. It's not a life form that can be explained by our current science. It has a life form that we don't understand. Today, I want to talk about something else. The body you obtained earlier was a soldier. Excuse me, if you say that we don't understand, shouldn't we do more research?" The person who spoke was a lieutenant general. He interrupted Thea's rambling and asked in an unfriendly tone. "This old man." Thea glanced at him. He was not only an acquaintance, but also a celebrity. Nominally, he was in charge of the logistics of the army, but in fact, he was in charge of the Human Strengthening Project. Thea didn't know what the old guy's name was. She only knew that everyone called him General Ryan. His daughter was the famous death-courting expert, Louise Ryan. In the future, he would have a prospective son-in-law named Clark Kent. It was impossible to talk nicely to this kind of person. Only by slapping his mouth hard would he be able to reason things out. Thea said with a smile, "General Ryan, I was just about to say that this corpse is not alone. His army monitors the entire universe. I am proud of the glory of Earth civilization, but in their eyes," Thea paused. "In their eyes, the universe is divided into 3,600 sectors, and Earth is just one planet in the 2814 sector. The corpse we are talking about was in charge of this sector when he was alive. Do you understand what kind of organization you are facing?" In order to deepen their impression, Thea added, "This corpse was the greatest warrior of their organization when he was alive. His best friend is now in charge of the entire army. So I hope that you can consider the big picture and not start a war. The best way to deal with them was to raise the banner of justice and put yourself on the moral high ground before anything else." Thea's words made the participants hesitate. The number of extraterrestrial technological products that landed on Earth was a huge number, but the research results were few and far between. It was the same for this corpse. It would be fine if they could find something, but if they couldn't, they would be the ones to take the blame. It was a bit difficult for them. "I still don't quite understand. Even if we want to return the corpse, how do we do it?" General Ryan, the father-in-law of the future Superman, asked, unwilling to give up. Thea knew that they would have this question. She had already thought of a way to deal with it. She took out the yellow light ring and completed her transformation. "Of course I will send it over. Are you going to take a spaceship? The yellow figure during the day was you? Are you a superhero too? Are you an ordinary person after taking off the ring?" General Ryan asked quickly. Thea was also helpless. A lot of people saw the broadcast during the day. It was impossible not to attract attention. It was not the time to expose her magic, so the yellow light ring was a good cover. Heavenly Eye would have a lot of information on him, so he would know what he should know about being a superhero and would never know what he should not know. There was an accident at the Sky Eye Society's seaside city base. I was chosen by this ring and went to their planet. After I learned that there were alien creatures invading, I hurried back. It was the ring that chose me, not the other way around. What's the condition for the ring to choose you? Because you are a woman? A guy who looked like a rat said with a playful expression. Thea secretly remembered this person's appearance and said casually, "Willpower. I have unparalleled willpower." However, her words did not attract the attention of a few people. What was willpower? It was an illusory thing. The ring is here. If you want to test your willpower, you can come up and enter the range of the ring's halo. Thea took off the ring and took 2 steps back. She made an inviting gesture. Their eyes lit up instantly. Why did they risk their lives to protect the alien corpse? Wasn't it to decipher the alien technology and live for a few more years? Now the opportunity seemed to be right in front of them. Can I fly as long as I wear the ring? A strong guy stood up and said. Sia nodded. It was not that she looked down on this group of people, but Batman was probably the only person on Earth who could wear a yellow light ring. This group of people would not be a match for the ring even if they joined forces. Sure enough, as soon as the first guy entered the 1-meter radius of the ring, he collapsed to the ground in less than 2 seconds. He had to give him medicine and call for first aid, and it took him a while to save his life. Who else wants to try? Let me make this clear in advance. If you are recognized by the ring, you will be sent to an alien planet to receive guidance. You have to think carefully. Sia's lips curved into a beautiful arc as she looked at them with a smile. Sure enough, after hearing what she said, these people who thought they had strong willpower immediately shrank back. They were not going to go to an alien planet. On Earth, they had become generals. Would they become slaves in an alien planet? General Ryan was still unwilling to give up. My subordinate claims to have an iron will. Can he give it a try? Thea had no objection. She wanted to see how strong this iron will Bisonisto was. The soldier named Iron Will came quickly. His military rank was not low, and he was a colonel. He looked determined and had strong execution skills. After receiving the order, he walked into the yellow halo without hesitation. Needless to say, this person was much stronger than the previous guy. After persevering in the halo for a full minute, he retreated with a face full of sweat. His eyes were red, and his face was distorted to the point that he did not look like a human. He took out a pistol and began to shoot wildly. In order to show that she was an ordinary person, Thea had already hidden under the table. Chapter 293. At the same time, Amanda hid under the table as well. The dark-skinned woman had been scolded by all the generals in the room the whole day. It was impossible to expect her to save someone in a critical moment. Now that Thea was hiding under the table like an ordinary person, the 2 women tacitly agreed not to speak. They hid very well. The people in the meeting room were unlucky. General Ryan's Iron Will soldiers were firing like crazy. 2 of the generals were hit by stray bullets. One of them was the one who mocked Thea for wearing the yellow light ring because she was a woman. Now that she had obtained the yellow light ring, she didn't benefit much in other spells, but in terms of the use of fear, Sia would gain new insights every day. Every day, she would be able to innovate on the old spells. Seeing the guy with a big mouth get shot, Sia didn't hesitate at all and instantly cast an improved fear on the target. The previously wretched general suddenly became 100 times more courageous. He leaped towards the berserk Iron Will soldier and was hit by 3 bullets in midair. However, his sacrificial pounce was still very effective. He bravely knocked down the source of danger and bought some time. When the guards outside the door rushed in and shot the Iron Will soldier to death, the general who bravely saved his comrade had already been dead for 5 minutes. General Ryan was in a bad mood. How did he get involved in such a f***-ked-up situation? His trusted subordinate killed a general of the United States in front of everyone. This was a tragedy that had never happened in the history of the United States. He also had enemies in the Department of National Defense. A few of them were looking at him with mischievous eyes. It was obvious that they were up to no good. Minister, Ryan ordered his subordinates to shoot and kill a respectable colleague. We have to seek justice for him. Minister, we have to punish him severely. Send him to the military court. The group of people finally got the chance to kick General Ryan while he was down. They were all excited and wanted to drag him out and execute him. Thea crawled out from under the table as usual. She did not care about the political strife. Diana was still waiting at the hotel. Their goal was to fight until dawn. She had to get the body as soon as possible. She was in a hurry to go back. She cleared her throat. Everyone, is there anyone else who wants to test their willpower? If not, let's go back to our original question. Yes, this is more important. When General Ryan saw that he had been forced into a corner, Thea's voice had saved his life. He hurriedly voiced his support. Now, he looked at Thea with a very affectionate gaze, even more affectionate than his own daughter. The Minister of Defense did not want to deal with Ryan either. There were too many twists and turns involved in this matter, and it was best to deal with it vaguely. Hence, he went with the flow and said that they should continue discussing aliens. Thea put away the ring, and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. General Leon was in charge of strengthening the human body, and if his subordinates said that they had not been transformed, they would not believe it. After the transformation, their original reverence for extraterrestrial objects turned into fear. The leading defense minister pondered for a long time before saying into the intercom, "Get Dr. Sarethstone to come to me." Not long after, a middle-aged black man in a white lab coat walked in. He was writing something on a tablet as he walked. "Call me if you need anything. I'm really busy." The black man did not take the room of generals seriously at all. He pushed up his glasses and said with a face full of displeasure, "Dr. Stone, we would like to ask about the alien corpse that was transported from Seaside City yesterday. Did you find anything?" The Minister of Defense did not have much respect for this expert who studied extraterrestrial technology. His tone was serious, as if he was ordering his subordinates. "What's the serial number?" The black doctor glanced at him with his eyes and continued to do his work. His attitude of not treating bean buns as food made the Minister of Defense's nose crooked. Damn it. He was so busy every day, how could he remember the serial number? Besides, what the hell was this serial number? This was what you called it in your laboratory. Serial number K35H97. Finally, someone resolved the Minister of Defense's awkwardness. A certain Major General with good eyesight quickly checked and reported the serial number that the black doctor needed. The black doctor checked a few times, and his thick nostrils made a muffled sound similar to a HMPH. "This corpse has no value. It's an ordinary carbon-based life form. Its physique is stronger than that of an earthling, but its strength is limited. Judging from the cell division, it has a lifespan of about 40 years on Earth." Several generals immediately withered. If it was only a little stronger than ordinary people, then there was indeed no need to study it. The Minister of Defense also knew that the military had a lot of extraterrestrial items that were plundered from all over the world. Since it had no value, he might as well do Thea a favor and let her take it away. "Miss Quinn, in that case, you can take the body." The Minister of Defense was so frightened by the gunfire that his legs were a little weak until now. He was ready to dismiss the meeting and go back to rest. But when he wanted to leave, the black doctor did not agree. When he entered the door, he looked at Thea for the first time and found that he did not know her. "Why do you want to take it away? This is my experimental field." He thought that Thea was in the same field. Thea had recognized this guy long ago. The father of the future Steel Bones, an expert in extraterrestrial technology for the government and military. When his son Victor Stone was seriously injured, he used the extraterrestrial technology in the laboratory to save his son's life and created the superhero Steel Bones. His technology laboratory, codenamed Red House, gathered all the extraterrestrial technology that could be found on Earth. It was normal that he did not like Abin Su's body now. But should she tell him about the extraterrestrial war and the story of Abin Su's brother-in-law and sister-in-law? Thea looked at the Minister of Defense hesitantly. "Dr. Stone, Miss Quinn's body is to be transported back for burial. Her affairs have nothing to do with you." For such a person who was dedicated to science and technology, it was useless no matter how much power he had. The Minister of Defense covered his forehead and explained. "Burial? Where are you going to be buried?" Dr. Stone stopped fiddling with his tablet and looked at Thea for the first time. The Minister of Defense was helpless. When he met such a person who wanted to get to the bottom of things, he could only choose to tell the truth. Transporting back to the original planet of this body. Hearing this, Dr. Sarethstone was stunned for a few seconds, then he jumped up excitedly. "You can go to an alien planet? Can you take me to see it? Is it in the Milky Way? How many light years is it?" Thea and the Minister of Defense looked at each other and saw the speechlessness in each other's eyes. Thea meant that he should quickly pull this guy away. The minister's eyes said that he should just fool him with a few words. Dr. Sareth Stone ignored the strange looks around him and ran to Thea excitedly, almost squeezing Amanda. He swiped a few times on the tablet and asked expectantly, "Do you know these words?" Chapter 294. Yes. It's a language from planet Syria. It's about. With the help of the Light Ring's translation function, Thea could understand all the languages in the universe that could provide fear and emotion. Naturally, she could understand the language in front of her. What's it about? Dr. Silas Stone asked anxiously. He had spent 3 days deciphering the language without eating or drinking, but until now, he still had no clue. Thea glanced around and took in the expressions of everyone in the room. Embarrassed, she said, "It's about how to reproduce more efficiently. They used some kind of tool to make it more efficient. Many words could not be translated in Earth's language." Thea explained ambiguously. Reproduce. The word entered everyone's ears and filtered the information through their brain. Those who reacted quickly looked at Dr. Silas Stone and smiled without saying a word. Those who reacted slowly were still pondering. Dr. Silas Stone stared at the tablet in his hand in disbelief. Then, he thought of the cylinder that he had been studying for 3 days. His son was already in his teens. It was easy for him to understand. Damn it. What happened to the high-tech aliens? The originally sci-fi scene suddenly turned into an indescribable object. The huge psychological difference made him almost run away. He calmed himself down. This was the only good thing about being black. He coughed lightly and said, "Then, can you help me take a look at these words?" Thea patiently chatted with him for a while. She had to admit that the country was really powerful. Many of the languages were lost in the universe. Without the help of the Light Ring, not many people could translate them. The people who collected the information gathered all the information they did not know. Thea even saw a stone slab that recorded a powerful spell. It was a pity that she could not see the full text. She just said that she did not know anything about magic and told him about aliens. Dr. Silas Stone was dissatisfied with her perfunctory attitude and refused to let her go. Thea had to use her trump card. "The aliens will be here soon. Don't waste time. Can you bear the responsibility if something happens?" The shocking pot scared the Black Doctor. He muttered in his heart, "Is it that serious?" However, seeing that the generals in the room were very serious, he could only keep his doubts to himself and take Thea to retrieve the body. With the help of official business, Thea finally walked into the Red Room, a not-so-famous laboratory. Through the function of the lantern ring, she silently looked around. There were many good things, but most of them were technologies from nearby star regions. Unfortunately, only half of the particle booster remained. The strong magnetized rotating core power amplifier had a large burnt hole at the input interface. The white noise impact cannon, the weapon that would become famous in the future, was nowhere to be seen. Many things were casually piled together without any apparent purpose, making the room seem a little cramped. Thea looked around and realized that most of the items were abandoned. There were only a few that could be used. "This is the Red House. You must be kidding me," she asked in confusion. "This is your laboratory?" Dr. Stone replied casually, "Yes, but it won't be for long." Thea turned to look at General Ryan, who had followed them here. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Their laboratory has spent too much money, but it has not produced any results. The Department of Defense has ordered them to move out of Washington to other cities. This site will be left to a more valuable research team. General Ryan's lips curled up slightly. It was obvious that he was very proud. Thea nodded and did not say anything. It wasn't hard to guess what had happened. It was nothing more than General Ryan wanting to start his own human enhancement experiment, so he demoted Dr. Stone, who hadn't produced any results, to the point that he was useless. He was even kicked out of the Pentagon. Every year, the country provided the same amount of research funding, but there were fewer monks, so naturally, they could eat their fill. If nothing unexpected happened, Dr. Stone would take his team to Detroit to rebuild the Red House laboratory. Once he was out of Washington's control, his research funding would definitely be greatly reduced. Could the Quinn Corporation inject funds and get a share of the results? All of this was still far away. Thea did not show any signs of urgency. She calmly followed them inside. The process of finding Abin Su's body was not smooth at all. The body was dismembered into 108 pieces like a jigsaw puzzle. 7 or 8 experimenters struggled for half an hour before they barely pieced together a human figure on the table. Looking at the more than 100 pieces, Thea looked at General Ryan gloomily. "General, is it really okay for me to take away such a body?" General Ryan, the father-in-law of the future Superman, kept rubbing his head. He was a little speechless. Thinking about it from another perspective, if Russia and the other indescribable countries dismembered him into more than 100 pieces and sent him back to the United States, they definitely didn't want to express their peaceful relationship as brothers. "Which one of you dismembered him like this? What should I do? Send someone to explain it to me." Thea actually had a way to deal with the body. She could not simply draw a few magic circles to bring him back to life, but it seemed that she could still restore his flesh and blood. However, she was not going to leave so easily. At least, she wanted some benefits. General Ryan was silent as if he did not hear anything. Several experimenters whispered to each other, "Explain? Explain to whom? Explain to whom?" Dr. Stone explained the situation to a few people in a low voice. Needless to say, the people hired in his laboratory were all very scientific. When they heard that they could go to outer space, their eyes lit up. However, soon, the harsh reality poured cold water on their heads. The few of them looked at Abin Su, who had been dissected into 10 by 10 pieces of meat. Was this a problem that could be solved by explaining? Dragging such a body to outer space? Are you sure you are not declaring war but returning the body of a brave warrior? They waved their hands desperately. One said that he was going back to his hometown to get married next month, while the other said that his father had just died and he could not leave. To be honest, Sareth Stone was very tempted. However, he was stopped by his loyal students. "You'd better stay on Earth." After haggling with them for a while, she received a lot of military orders and a promise to organize the science and practical department of the Quinn Group to visit the Red House laboratory. Then, Sia took a big bag and put the body away. Leaving the Pentagon alone, she flew into the sky under the cover of the night. When she returned to the hotel, Diana was waiting for her. Thea threw the body into the dimensional ring and told the moose not to eat it. Thea started a new round of competition with Diana. Thea jumped up and used the KGB fighting skill to clamp Diana's neck with her legs. Diana did not show any weakness. She used the Sambo self-defense skill, clamped Thea's head with her legs, and fell to the ground. "I won't lose." Thea's voice came from between her legs. It was a bit distorted. "My body's endurance is much better than yours. You're going to lose." Diana announced her victory in advance. Chapter 295. Both of them tested each other's strength. Diana's stamina was unparalleled. With her warrior's physique, it shouldn't be too difficult for her to defeat Thea, who was an archer and a sorcerer. However, Thea had been baptized by the yellow light ring and her spirit had become much stronger. She gritted her teeth and persevered until Diana couldn't hold on any longer. Both of them reached a new height amidst the intense trembling of their souls. "Wake up, wake up." Diana shook Thea, who was sleeping like a little pig. After a full 10 minutes, Thea, who had overdrawn her spirit, finally recovered. She slowly sat up on the bed. She had used up too much of her stamina and spirit last night. She had used up a bar of HP and a bar of MP to kill the big boss Diana, who had a huge amount of HP. She was too weak compared to Diana. When she got back, she had to ask Damien if he managed to steal the sword. Thea put on a few clothes and went to the roof of the hotel to get some sun to replenish her stamina. After half an hour, she was surprised to find that her spirit had increased slightly. It was amazing. This was something that had never been mentioned in any spellbook. Doing that kind of indescribable thing could increase one's spirit. It was very good. For the safety of mankind and the peace of the universe, she had to do it more often in the future. She had to treat it as a social responsibility and maintain the quality and quantity of it in the long run. After regaining her energy, Thea called room service and ordered breakfast. The two of them ate like crazy. "We'll go to Aura later. Treat it as a honeymoon." Thea announced the itinerary for the next few days in a domineering manner. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to handle such a shocking itinerary. Fortunately, Diana was not an ordinary person. She nodded. "I've never been to another planet before. Is the universe really that big? Earth is only one planet in sector 2814. Thea patted her chest. "Don't worry, there are not many people in the universe who can beat you." Diana didn't know that Thea was speaking from the bottom of her heart. She thought that Thea was praising her. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows and smile happily. When the two of them were about to leave, they discovered an awkward fact. The water content in the room was a little higher than normal. There were many water stains on the carpet and walls, and they looked very fresh. The two of them were not ordinary people, so naturally, the water content was also extraordinary. If left alone, some of it could exist for a very long time. Diana, who was a little embarrassed, naturally pulled out the fire god's sword and tried to roast the crime scene again. Thea hurriedly stopped her from doing such a ridiculous thing. If the god of fire knew that she was using his sword to do such a thing, would he come out of his god's kingdom? Psychics or full-leveled warriors like Diana with godly equipment could do nothing about this situation, but Thea's variety of means showed its value at this time. Water extraction. She placed 3 water balls in the room. The room was as dry as an oven, and a slightly turbid water ball was gathered in Thea's palm. How to deal with this water ball was difficult for the two of them. Diana was a little evasive and didn't dare to look into her eyes. Thea was also in a dilemma. Both of them had divine power in their bodies, and the energy in this water ball was not low. It would be awkward if it was used by bad people to strengthen them. A ball of indescribable water was purified and injected into a human body, and then this strengthened human fought a clone made of Superman's hair and blood. Just thinking about that scene made one's hair stand on end. For the safety of mankind, it was simply, put it away. Thea took out a small bottle and poured all the liquid into it. "You!" Diana almost bit her tongue. "Shouldn't this thing be poured down the drain?" Thea was reasonable. "We can't be so selfish. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. We have the responsibility and the obligation to contribute to the safety of the Earth." A bunch of nonsense barely dispelled Diana's concerns. The two of them decided to withdraw the water at any time when they sparred in the future, to avoid giving bad people a chance. The two of them cleaned up the crime scene, checked out and left. They came to a place where there was no one and flew out of the atmosphere. Thea opened a wormhole and the two of them left the Milky Way. Of course, they wouldn't go to Aura directly. It was a little dangerous to bring along a Bean Sue, who was more than $100. Green Light was definitely not a match for Diana in a one-on-one fight, but he couldn't stop them in numbers. With hundreds of people swarming up, there weren't many in the universe who could beat them. They found a planet with signs of intelligent life and the two of them stopped. Thea wanted to restore a Bean Sue's body, or at least look like a human. Diana, on the other hand, took the lasso and studied intelligent life with nothing to do. After busying for 2 hours, Thea wiped the sweat from her forehead. This Bean Sue looked much more complete. In order to show that he was killed by the parallax demon, Thea punched a big hole in the intact body. She had as much yellow fear energy as she wanted, and the wound was faked perfectly. After putting the body back into the space ring, Thea turned around to look for Diana. She found that the girl was in a good mood. She caught an animal that looked like a mix of a rabbit and a dog and was questioning it. The wisdom blessed by Athena was not a joke. After talking for a while, Diana could roughly speak the other party's language. It could be seen that Diana was really happy. Without the so-called mission of protecting the Earth, Diana really didn't have any happy moments. They were now out of the Milky Way. The heavy responsibility on her shoulders suddenly disappeared, and her spirit and appearance were much lighter. The original plan to quickly rush to Aurora was put on hold. Thea had contacted Senisto before, and when he learned that his old friend's body had returned home, he was very happy to welcome the two of them to Aurora as guests. Earth was not a big deal, and Star City was very safe. Thea decided not to use the wormhole, and let slowly fly over by spaceship. Diana said that she was not willing, but her body was very honest and followed her to start this space trip. Thea's ring could translate all languages, and Diana's strength could even sweep through some high-tech planets. The two of them leisurely took spaceships and continued to move towards Aurora. There were warm and hospitable races, and naturally there were space bandits who relied on the strong to bully the weak. This was the opportunity for Diana to show her might. When she first left Earth, she was a little unconfident, but when the trip entered the second month, her confidence was almost full. There was no one in this universe who could fight. But on a certain evil planet, a group of creatures that didn't seem to be half a meter tall taught her a lesson. A giant main cannon disguised as a mountain peak completed charging without the two of them noticing. Fortunately, Thea activated the wormhole in time to escape, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. In the subsequent operations, the two of them restrained themselves a lot, and finally arrived at Aurora 3 months after leaving Earth. Chapter 296. Of course, the one who received them was Senisto. Welcome to Aurora. Senisto was familiar with Thea, but his focus was on Diana. She was full of heroic spirit, and her whole body was brimming with power. She stood there like a sharp sword, sharp, cold, and full of a murderous aura. Senisto was a little dumbfounded as he took a closer look. There was no light ring, no technological equipment, and no need to amplify her emotions 10 times or 100 times. This woman's fighting spirit was about to overflow. Were Earthlings this terrifying? The two did not fight, but based on his intuition, Senisto felt that he might not be able to defeat this black-haired woman. Seeing Diana intimidate the unruly Senisto, Thea was quite beautiful. She took out a Bean Sue's body from her space ring and placed it in a crystal coffin on a planet she passed by. Looking at it from the outside, it looked quite good. Senisto gently stroked the coffin. He still respected this old friend of his who had fought alongside him for many years. He nodded to express his gratitude and brought the two to the Green Lantern Corps cemetery. Knowing that a Bean Sue was going to be buried, many Green Lanterns came to offer their condolences. The Green Lantern Corps fought all over the universe, and it was really a luxury to have their bodies recovered for burial. Many people expressed their gratitude to Thea for returning the body. How was the training? Why did you say you won't return to Earth in the future? At the funeral, Thea saw Hal Jordan, who was undergoing training on Aurora and would return to his jurisdiction in a few days. However, Hal Jordan was very depressed and said that he did not want to return to Earth. That was why Thea asked. In the original spacetime, Hal Jordan returned to Earth with the mentality that he was a superhero, but with Thea's participation, a few superheroes emerged. His little tricks were nothing. In his mind, Earth was very safe, and he did not want to cause trouble. After explaining a few words to Thea and preparing to leave, Senisto came back with a sad look in his eyes. Although his relationship with Thea was not considered friendly now, it was no longer as stiff as before. You're definitely not just returning the body, right? Is there anything else? Senisto already had some understanding of this Earthling woman. Unlike Hal Jordan, who had been trained by him, this husky was an innocent child without any ulterior motives. Thea, on the other hand, was completely different. She would never do anything that did not benefit her. It had to be said that Senisto had pretty much guessed Thea's mentality. She originally only wanted to befriend the Green Lantern Corps, but after meeting Boston Brand a few days ago, she changed her mind slightly. It's like this. I found a very interesting person a few days ago. I think he's very suitable for the Yellow Lantern Corps. Could it be the woman beside you? Senisto looked at Diana from the corner of his eyes. She was so strong even without a light ring. He definitely could not let her enter the army. Otherwise, who would be the leader? He quickly thought of an excuse to reject her. How could Thea let Diana wear the yellow light? She immediately rejected. No, she's my lover. She has nothing to do with the army. Hearing that it was not Diana, Sinisto heaved a sigh of relief. His expression softened considerably. Is he an earthling? Ah. Thea thought for a moment before answering. He was an earthling when he was alive. I'm not sure where he's from now. An earthling when he was alive? Sinisto's head was full of question marks. He looked at the Light Ring's language translator to make sure it was not wrong. What did this mean? Where is he? Can I see him? Thea scratched her head. Actually, he's already here. You just can't see him. I can't see him. Sinisto had fought for the Green Lantern Corps for many years and had actually seen many enemies who could turn invisible. However, no matter how he looked, he could not see anyone nearby. However, his powerful spiritual power did sense a cold and gloomy energy to his right. Is it here? Sinisto pointed at the place he sensed and received an affirmative answer from Thea. This surprised him. With such a strong invisibility ability, the destructive power it could cause was enormous. Half a month ago, Thea returned to Earth to buy food because Diana was not used to the extraterrestrial tastes. She also took care of a few matters in Star City. Before she left, she received an email from Dead Man. After careful examination, Thea found that there was a fragment of her spiritual power in the depths of his soul. If she was not wrong, it should have been caused by the fear spell. This situation was a bit like the recognition of a master in novels. A single thought from her could completely obliterate him. Thus, the idea of taking him in as a fighter emerged. For him to find the meaning of his existence, Thea's suggestion was to become a superhero. If you want to have a physical body that can be seen by outsiders, what do you think of my yellow light ring? As long as you wear it, you can materialize your body. One ring only costs 998. After some persuasion, she gave Boston Brand the codename Dead Man and stored him in the space ring before bringing him to Aurora. Sinisto had no divinity or magic, but he could rely on his powerful spiritual power to sense the existence of Dead Man. Thea was impressed. How is it? He's very powerful, right? Let him work for the Yellow Lantern Corps, Thea said frankly. This. Sinisto was a little hesitant. To be honest, Dead Man's ability was definitely powerful. If he had not been introduced by Thea, Sinisto would have agreed immediately. However, he really did not have a good reason to refuse. It would be a pity to give away such a powerful ability. Sinisto's ambitious mentality quickly gained the upper hand. Okay, I agree. Come back with me to my residence. I've also taken in a subordinate these few days. Let me introduce him to you. Sinisto did not know about the soul fragment. He felt that he could rely on his great talents to subdue Dead Man. The few of them flew to his residence. There's a person here. Hal Jordan, who was about to leave, also followed, but he did not see any person around. He felt a chill in his heart and asked Thea with the intention of watching a show. Yes, his name is Boston Brand. He died a few months ago when he was performing a trapeze. He's now in a state of being between life and death. Hal Jordan looked at Thea with his mouth agape. His original doubts had not been dispelled. Instead, they increased. Is there such a magical thing on Earth? This was almost beyond the limits of his imagination. In just a few months, he had gone from a pilot to a universe warrior. His worldview had been shattered a few times, but he realized that it was not shattered enough. He had to continue shattering it. The talkative Hal Jordan fell into a daze. Without him livening up the atmosphere, the rest of them were silent. Thea soon met Sinisto's new subordinate. My understanding of fear is second to none. I'm Lisa Draka. A blue-skinned woman with only a few pieces of cloth on her body introduced herself. Chapter 297. This blue-skinned female alien, who claimed to have an incomparable understanding of fear, respected Sinisto very much. Her eyes exuded worship and adoration, almost unconcealed, as if Sinisto was a god. Her gaze was constantly wandering around him. Thea did not know much about Lisa Draka. She only remembered that she was a general of the Yellow Lantern Corps in the original spacetime, responsible for training recruits. She was extremely loyal to Sinisto. The parallax book was controlled by her in the original spacetime, and she claimed to have the powerful combat power to deal with 3 Green Lantern warriors at the same time. Unfortunately, she died before she could achieve anything. She encountered Hal Jordan and the others who had cheated. In short, she was a person with some strength and broad vision, but she underestimated her own strength. Lisa Draka was born from fear, from the blue Tarocco star cluster. She has the ability to sense the fear of others. I think highly of her ability, Sinisto said straightforwardly. Thea nodded in agreement. Although this woman was a little arrogant, her strength was not bad. If she was not compared to those cheats, she would be a small boss. She understood Sinisto's intention and summoned the parallax book. The appearance of the giant golden book in front of them caused different reactions. Thea and Sinisto could each control fear, so the power of the giant book had no effect on them. Diana was slightly uncomfortable, but she quickly resisted it. The mental state of the dead was different from that of ordinary people. He had a piece of Thea's mental fragment, so he was immune to the power of the parallax book. Lisa Draka's claim to have an incomparable understanding of fear was not an exaggeration. Her face was extremely ugly, and she bit her lip hard, but she held on and did not embarrass her boss Sinisto. Hal Jordan, who came as a spectator, was in big trouble. Countless scenes of fear echoed in his mind. Just the scene of his father's plane accident when he was young appeared more than 10 times. The intense fear was eroding his central nervous system. If he could not hold on, he would turn into a fool in front of everyone. Thea was shocked. They were from the same hometown on Earth, so she could not just watch him die without knowing why. If the members of the Ring of Lights could only watch, they would be pulled away if they could hold on. In the past, her spells would be at a loss in such a situation. But now that she had mastered the emotion of fear, she cast an improved version of the anti-fear spell on him. Hal Jordan finally regained consciousness. He gasped for air and lay on the ground, unable to get up. She deliberately observed Lisa Draka's expression. This woman, who used to be the boss of the world and Sinisto's number 2, didn't dare to ignore Thea, who held the parallax book. She lowered her head slightly to show her respect. Not bad. I agree to let her join the Yellow Lantern Corps. This was a tacit understanding between her and Sinisto. Both of them were very cautious when recruiting new members. Without Sinisto, there would be no new Yellow Lantern Ring, and without Thea, there would be no official member. However, both of them had plans for the future of the Yellow Lantern Corps. This conclusion could be drawn from the fact that they recruited new members almost simultaneously. Is there a new function in your book? Sinisto extracted the yellow energy. This energy was much larger than when they first met. The fear of the parallax demon was absorbed into this energy. Yes. Any intelligent creature that touches or looks at the parallax book will be intimidated by fear. Even if they manage to overcome the fear, their speed will be greatly reduced. Conquering fear will increase one's speed, and being affected by fear will slow one down. Thea explained the ability of the parallax book to Sinisto. This guy was the first person to recognize the Yellow Lantern Ring, so the book had no effect on him at all. This book had a lot of restrictions, but if used cleverly, it could result in great results. Thea initially thought of the few weak-willed speedsters. They ran all over the mountains like wild donkeys every day, so this book was the most suitable to deal with them. After understanding the effects of the parallax book, Sinisto lowered his head to create the lantern ring and said, "Why don't you let your new subordinate fight with mine?" This guy was indeed very competitive. He never forgot to compete. Thea did not mind. She also wanted to see how strong the dead man was. She immediately nodded. "Sure, as you wish." When Lisa Draka heard that she was going to fight, she was not afraid at all. She stood alone in the middle of the field and waited for nearly half a minute. She was completely dumbfounded. Didn't he say he wanted to fight? Where is he? Who wants to fight with me? Is he here? In fact, the dead man had already entered the field. He just did not make the first move because he saw that she was not moving. Sinisto's speed of creating the lantern ring slowed down significantly. He was also concentrating on sensing the dead man's location. He also felt that this kind of invisible enemy was too troublesome. Even if they had earth-shattering power, it was useless if they could not hit the opponent. In the face of an unknown enemy, an invisible enemy, no matter who it was, they would feel fear. Senisto could not help but glance at Thea. The guy she had chosen really fit the Yellow Lantern Ring's motto. Only the dead man could instill fear in the enemy. "I'm fighting an invisible person?" Lisa Dracker saw her boss Senisto's serious face and knew that he was not joking. The enemy had already entered the field. It was just that she could not see him. However, no matter how she sensed, she did not feel anything unusual around her. She looked left and right to guard against the enemy's attack. Her expression was no longer as calm as before. Although she had not put on the Yellow Lantern Ring, she had caught Senisto's eye not because she was brave but because she had some skills. Lisa Dracker's expression became extremely ferocious. The veins on her forehead bulged, and her eyes rolled back. She panted heavily and looked around. Suddenly, she wrapped her fist with mental strength and punched to the side. Under Thea and Diana's gaze, the dead man was sent flying more than 2 meters away by her punch. He rubbed his chin and floated in the air, seemingly in disbelief. Senisto's expression was very smug. Thea also asked, "What's your subordinate's ability?" "I feel that her eyes are very strange." Thea relied on her eyes to make a living, so she was very sensitive to such abilities. Lisa Dracker has some ability to foresee the future. Unfortunately, it's limited. She can only foresee things related to herself in a small area for a short period of time. Since Senisto had asked her to use it, he did not intend to hide it. To a certain extent, Thea's relationship with him was closer than his relationship with the Green Lantern Corps. There was no need to hide such obvious abilities. Thea nodded. She scoffed at Senisto's ability to foresee the future. Lisa Dracker's ability was at most a prediction, but it was far from being able to foresee the future. Chapter 298. Not only was there a difference in their abilities, but even such a low-level prediction was a huge burden on a mortal's body. Looking at Lisa Dracker's expression, which looked like she was about to spit out her organs in the next second, it was obvious that this move was severely draining her energy and even her lifespan. Although she was Senisto's subordinate, Thea could not let her consume so much energy. She signaled the dead man to attack and decide the outcome in one move. Having received her instructions, the dead man chuckled and jumped into Lisa Dracker's body with a high platform dive. Senisto immediately noticed the abnormality. Thea cast a magic eye on him so that he could see the battle between the dead man and Lisa Dracker. "This is..." Senisto knew that Thea had some abilities beyond the light ring, so he was not surprised. He was surprised by the dead man who had half of his body in her body and was still trying to enter her body. He had a pale face, dark circles under his eyes, and was wearing a bright red bodysuit. Half of his body poked out from the blue-skinned Lisa Dracker's back. At first glance, one would think that he was a deformed person. Senisto could see because of Thea's magic, but Lisa Dracker, a living alien, did not know magic. She only felt that something was desperately trying to enter her body. She knew that it was not a good thing, so she naturally tried her best to stop it. However, the dead man's move was extremely overbearing. Against ordinary people, like Nightwing, he could possess them directly. Batman's willpower was the best in the world. Although he was quickly chased out, he was still possessed for a few seconds. Now, facing Lisa Dracker, whose willpower was not as strong as Batman's, because he had not used this move many times and was not used to it at first, his spiritual attributes quickly suppressed Lisa Dracker's defenseless soul and completed a preliminary occupation. This ability? This is too strange. Senisto, who had seen many things, was truly shocked. This was an unsolvable ability. Even he could not think of a way to deal with it in such a short period of time, without using any combat techniques or materialization, and directly taking over the nest. Seeing his vigilance, Thea dispelled his worries. The dead man's move is very magical against ordinary people, but it lasts for a short time against people with strong willpower. Just as she finished speaking, the dead person who possessed Lisa Dracker staggered a few steps forward. "This woman's resistance is crazy," Thea also wanted to see how much control a dead person had, so she didn't say anything to stop him. Hal Jordan looked at Lisa Draka trembling like a fool. Thea did not want him to embarrass the Earthlings, so she gave him a magic eye. The 4 people present could see the dead man. Lisa Draka could not, but she had experienced it the most. She did not care whether she could see it or not. She used all her strength to try to expel the dead man from her body. The two entered a long tug of war. The spirit of a dead person was far stronger than a normal person's soul, but Lisa Draka's willpower was equally strong since she had caught Sinisto's eye. The mental battle between the two was disadvantageous to her, but because it was her body, she had an endless supply of energy, so she naturally had a geographical advantage. As the battle dragged on, the powerless dead man was finally squeezed out. He was a rootless source, so what he consumed was his own spirit. At the same time, Lisa Draka was so tired that she almost collapsed. She could not maintain her predictive state at all. Sweat flowed down her blue skin. I see. You can be expelled with a strong willpower. Sinisto was relieved when he saw this. Lisa Draka's willpower was like a baby's compared to his. If she could do it, he could do it too. However, the dead man's ability was indeed extraordinary. Anyone with a bit of foresight could see that. Sinisto was very happy that such a person joined the Yellow Lantern Corps. Not long after, the 3rd and 4th lantern rings were completed. Thea signaled for Lisa Draka to go first. Everything was the same as before. The only thing worth noting was that Lisa Draka recited the same oath that Sinisto had recited that day. After registering her name in the Book of Parallax, Lisa Draka went to the side alone to accept the knowledge of the lantern rings. There was a small problem when the 4th lantern ring was paired with the dead man. The power of the lantern ring was not for show. It could ignore the invisibility of the dead man, but there was a problem when it came to identifying the intelligent life form. The lantern ring circled him twice, but it could not determine which planet this life form came from. It could only say vaguely, "Intelligent life form has been identified." From that Boston brand, you have the ability to inflict great fear on others. Welcome to the Yellow Lantern Corps. Thea wanted to laugh when she saw this. If the lantern ring was in human form, it would probably beat the wall when it encountered such a once-in-a-thousand-years fellow like the dead man. The dead man's oath was the same as Thea's. Thea and Sinisto looked at each other before looking away at the same time. The dead man who put on the yellow light ring immediately grasped the ability to materialize. He materialized a real person who looked 30 to 40% like him when he was alive. Although the yellow color didn't match his aesthetic, he had been a lonely ghost for so long. Now that he could be seen by others, it was already a great blessing. A little color was not worth mentioning. The lantern ring's function for him was to relive the feeling of being a human, and to use fear to break down the resistance of the other party when he occupied the other party's body. The dead man who materialized touched everything and seemed to be very satisfied with the objects he could touch. Hal Jordan was a little afraid of him at first, but after a few words, they found that they were surprisingly compatible. Both of them were jerks in the beginning, but later on, they regretted their character of wanting to be heroes. They talked about women, guns, and the future, and became more and more congenial. They were just short of becoming sworn brothers. Thea stayed on Aurora for 3 days and met Arlene Sue, Abin Sue's sister, who was also Sinisto's wife, Solonique Notu, Sinisto's daughter, and Amorn Sue, Abin Sue's son. After receiving a lot of gratitude, Thea took Diana and a few guardians to chat for a long time. After that, she found that there was nothing to do. She had been away from home for a long time, and it was time for her to return to Earth. After saying goodbye to each of them, she went to the border of Sector 2814 with Hal Jordan. Now, Hal Jordan was full of a sense of mission, as if there was a demon king descending from the sky in his sector every day. He insisted on patrolling the sector and eliminating all threats before returning to Earth. Thea could not be bothered with such a stubborn person. She could not tell him that most of the most dangerous demon kings in the entire universe were on Earth. The other planets were really safe. As long as he took good care of Earth, the entire universe would be saved. Thea did not need any dead men for the time being. Seeing that the two of them hit it off, she let him and H.L. Jordan eliminate the evil in the nearby star sector first. After all, the lantern ring had the ability to communicate regardless of distance, so anything could be contacted. Holding Diana's hand, they landed in Europe. The two of them once again walked the same path as before. Comparing their memories, they walked and stopped along the way. It was also time for them to part for the time being. "I'll visit you next week," Thea said straightforwardly. "Okay, I'll wait for you." Diana's smile was still so beautiful, clear, and without a trace of impurity. The two of them kissed and said goodbye, one to the west and the other to the south. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.